Good evening, ladies and gents. Hello and welcome to the grand finale for the Game of the Year Direct GT3 Endurance Championships on behalf of Premier Endurance League. Scott T. Rankin behind the booth tonight. We got JP and Pete Baxter. It is going to be a three-way decider here up in the commentary booth, and it's going to be a two-way decider out on track in your pro class. What do we call them? We call them the elites. They are neck and neck. Well, they're not really neck and neck. There is a 100-point advantage in favor currently of Nick Wood, and it looks to be all set, decided, and done. But in the challenger class, it's neck and neck. There is nothing in between, and it's going to come down to a good night here at Suzuka. Pete, turn to you at the moment. It's a long flowing track. There's lots going on. Actually, we're going to jump straight into our gridding formation, ladies and gentlemen, because that's how tight for time we are this evening. Have a look on board. Nick Wood is moved to a new car. He's actually running the Ford here tonight. He's managed to stick it on pole off alongside of Ben Jeffrey. Adam Jepson and Alan Dawson going to make up row 2. Alec Kay and Owen Coleman on row 3. Leith McClellan and Mark Foster is going to be the first of the secondary class in P8. That's a phenomenal qualifying performance from him. Before we'll jump a little bit deeper to Adrian Gretchen, Martin Hallen, and Jesse McMenamin and Brenna Grosh round out your front 12. Moving one page further deeper into the field, we're going to be 13th and 14th. Will be John O'Kiley and Alfonso Latella. Latella's in that championship fight, so keep an eye on him. Nick Bottrell and Daniel Magri, Darren Burgess and Cam Edwards, Braden O'Loughlin, Trent Allen round out your top 20. Hugo Sutherland and Matt Keane all the way back to 22nd. Richard Mayer and Adam Holland, your top 24. We'll throw it back to 25th and 26th is where Dean Hunt is, and that's going to take a mighty effort from Dean's hands. Matthew Skulls line up alongside of him on Brent Tucker, and Ronald Long will be at the next row of the grid as well. Sean Bonici and Matthew Norris, Jimmy Middleton, Simon Honey, Luke Mackay, and that's where we start getting the safety cars and the drivers who failed to qualify here tonight. Ladies and gents, it is tied up and down the field. It's going to be an interesting day worth of racing, and boys, it's about to get rolling here, so we'll be underway in just a few moments.
Oh, thanks, Scotty. Great intro, and I've got to tell you, you are absolutely spot on with the race for the Challenger Series. Dean Hunt has a slender 12-point lead going into it, not counting drop rounds, but I tell you, the drop rounds is in actually his favour, because Alfonso Latella, he started with 0 points. He's got 150 points he might have to make up. So looks neck and neck on the table. Drop rounds might catch it, but Alex has got a little bit of a jump with the qualifying tonight. Over to you for the start, buddy.
Yeah, and they're off and rolling on the run down to the front straight away. On the run to turn number 1, it is Suzuka. And it is going to be a Ford that leads us away. And don't forget, there is a $50 bounty for the first driver on the championship. You can win the race outright in that Ford GT3. So for Nick Wood, there's more than just bragging rights on the line. He has got to muscle this thing around, and he's got to handle what is a difficult car to deal with on the opening couple laps. He'll try and settle himself in now from the front end of town, and the rest of the field will do what they possibly can in behind. And already there's actually issues at the tail end of the field as well. As another one of the Fords, I think it was, is actually okay. It's actually going to be Matt Keane and John O'Kiley are in trouble, and Matt Keane is missing a rear wing.
And if I contact someone somewhere here, Scotty, we can have a quick look. There you go. That's just about the end of what went on. I believe John O'Kiley may have ended up going off the side of the circuit. Matty Keane, I think, went off first. 3 wide into turn 1. That's never going to work, gentlemen. And there's our first casualty of the evening there as well. So we'll get back to the live action. Nick Wood got away. He done an absolute barnstorming start. He's opened up 6/10 at the moment with Ben Jeffrey and Owen Coleman behind him. It's going to be very interesting to see what happens here and whether or not Nick can manage to keep that Ford up the front end. I think as much as we love the Ford, Scotty, you know, the chances of it winning were pretty slim this season, as Darren Burgess and obviously Matthew Gerard and Matty Keane have been running the Ford as well. So for Nick Wood, if he can do it, great. He would have done an absolute stellar job. As we know, it's hard on his tyres. It's all about tyres around Suzuka and whether or not they're going to be able to keep them up and running. We will see. We will find out. Let's see what happens as the race goes on here, Scotty, I think.
Yeah, one of the biggest issues as well is that Ford's the oldest car in the field in terms of when it was developed for iRacing. It's got a funny dead zone in it in terms of the steering. That's what he'll have to be fighting all the way through tonight. And when you're trying to be consistent for 2 hours, it's going to take a little bit of difficulty. It's been a long time between safety cars in the Premier Endurance League this season. Indeed, it's all the way back to the first round from Catalunya, where they were abundant like you wouldn't believe. Unfortunately, Matt Keen's stricken car in the S's on lap number 1 was right on the racing line, and race control left with little to no option. And we will be gathered up by the safety car here in just a few moments. So, Pete, that's going to open up a little bit of strategy window here. Fuel windows for these drivers tonight. We know that it's tough in terms of the tyre wear, but do we think we can get home on 2 stops, or is it going to be a splash and dash to the end?
Oh, mate, there's just always a 2-stopper race, right, with the 65% fuel capacity. But the thing that I noticed, as soon as that safety car was called out, Nick was in front, he slowed the field down. So that tells me that these guys are playing games already to try and, 1, take the pressure off the tyres, and 2, reduce the fuel load as soon as they got a chance to go. Because if you're 12 to 15 laps in and you get a safety car, you're racing up to the pit exit before you slow down. Nick slowed down straight away, and that was an eye-opener to me. He's still in protection mode, and he knows that this is a strategy game. There's a long race ahead. So yeah, that stood out to me straight away as soon as that safety car got called.
Talk to me a little bit about the drivers that are probably a little bit deeper in terms of the pack, because we always say it, you've got to build an advantage any possible way you can. Well, for some of the guys at the tail end of the field, yes, it's only 1 lap worth of fuel, but perhaps you keep circulating, you keep coming back down the pit lane. Every little inch of fuel that you can add, particularly if you haven't got track position there, Pete, is so critical.
Well, given the sparsity, I mean, it's a pretty even 2-stop race. Like, there is a little bit of fat. There's probably about a 15-minute window worth of fat. If you're at the back of the field, it might be worth jumping into the pits, grabbing a fresh set of tyres, topping up your fuel right to the end. And look, it seems like, we've only done 1 lap. But you know what? At the end of the race, that 1 lap might make a difference. That might be the difference between somebody who can fuel save or not. Because what we don't know is we don't know whether there's going to be more safety cars. And that's the really interesting thing about safety cars. We haven't seen them for a while, but we're now at a track where cars come together closely. When they do go off, they can bounce back onto the track and they can get stuck on the track. So for me, there is a likelihood of another safety car during the race. Yeah, we'll be wrong at the end of it if that's the case. But I think there's a likelihood that we will see another safety car at some stage. So for me, you take every opportunity you can to fill up, if you're at the back, to fill up and try and get an advantage later in the race, because that's where it comes.
We'll throw it to JP here for a moment, mate. Expectations of Porsches to do Porsche things. Do you have a scale on that one?
Out of what, 1 to 10? If you're going 1 to 10, yeah, you're going to get a 10. I'm going to put a bet down now, right? I'm going to put a bet down now. The first person in the barrier on the left-hand side there will be a Porsche who's going to hit the outer curb, and that back end is going to come spinning through. And that's one of the problems. Mate, come on, Scotty. You know, you're chuckling there, but you know full well. They're going to.
I was going for the safe bet. Like, things I had on my bingo card for tonight, JP says Porsche does Porsche things. So I wanted to get it. It was like the freebie in the middle of the bingo card. I had to get it out of the way early.
Well, you said it. So technically, have you really put it on there?
Let's take a bet, Scotty. JP said, what, the first left-hand wall is going to come up? Which one? You call the wall, JP, because I reckon the bet we need to put on is, the commentator's driver's prize, Scotty. If JP's wrong, he can fund that. Otherwise, we'll fund it together again.
Hold on a minute. Hold on. You know what I mean? How did I end up on that one? But I just think that we're going to see coming through they'll be coming through 130R, and it will be a Porsche on the outside curve, will go round, and it will flood the wall on the left-hand side. And if it's any other car, I will be very surprised on that one. But I think people at home will even agree. With the uncertainty of it, the tyre wear here at Suzuka, the Porsche is literally going to be a dangerous car to drive. The likes of Dawson, have got to get it on track. Foz has got to keep it as well. Gretsch is another one. It's going to be difficult if they try and run them tyres longer than they want to be, because them tyres will scream, and that Porsche will just start doing, Scotty, Porsche things, which will generally mean it will try and kill you.
Yeah, so there was something else I wanted to point out. We actually were here in the iRacing official 10 hours of Suzuka last year, and the Porsche. 2 cars to be in, I believe, were the Porsche and the Ferrari, maybe the BMW. So, and they were the strongest 3, but it was a little bit unsteady in terms of that Porsche. So, you know, that's something to keep in the back of your mind, as we've also seen the strength of the Porsche recently in terms of GT3 things. Pete, you had something to say just there as well on top of this.
I was going to say, JP's called it, mate. He said the Porsche on the outside of 130R is going to be the next car to hit the fence when the Porsche does Porsche things. So I'll take that bet, JP. And, you know, if you want to really take a bet, you're dealing with Aussies now. You got to remember, we take bets seriously. You know, we're going to keep an eye out for it. And when it doesn't happen, mate, I'm going to call you out on it. But by all means, call me on it when it does happen, right?
What are we even betting here, Pete?
Betting in Australia. You're betting that a Porsche is going to do Porsche things and hit the fence at 130R during the race.
It will happen, but I thought there was going to be a prize at the end if I was right. You know what I mean? Hey, you know, JP, I don't know, I'll turn around and say that Pommies are wonderful individuals or something, you know what I mean? Or post a picture of you holding a Union Jack or something like that. That would be quite cool. Walking down Bonsai Beach.
That could be fun.
Yeah, walking down Bonsai Beach with a Union Jack strapped around your neck. You know what I mean?
Tell you what, I'll put the Union Jack in front of a Bundaberg rum factory, and if you're right, how's that sound? What are you going to do for me?
Well, that ain't big enough, Pete. That's for you to come up with. As long as it doesn't involve a man keying and running around my garden. You know what I mean? Because nobody wants to see that sight, Pete. That's not pretty. You know what I mean? So,
you're waving an Australian flag at Lord's one summer, but yeah, to be honest, you could never get it in without getting busted by the coppers. So.
I know, to be fair, Pete, I don't watch cricket, so I'd probably be asleep before I even get there, to be honest. But, you know, that's the prediction. But Scotty, pace car's coming in there, buddy. Let's get this race up and running once more.
Yeah, we're going to be back in the hands of Nick Woods, and our safety car has made the entry back to the pit lane. So we'll be under green flag conditions here in just a few moments, and there's no hesitation from Nick Wood. He pulls the trigger right at the moment you absolutely expect him to, because everyone wants to go firing into 130R. On the strategy update, Matthew Keane has resurfaced. He is still on the lead lap. The 3 cars to have taken fuel under that most recent lap at the end of lap number 2 are Sean Bonici, Jonathan Kiley, and Matt Keane. So there are your 3 cars looking to take a strategy advantage. For the rest of them, they're going to file back down into turn number 1. Who is going to survive this time by? And it will be a single file through turn number 1. I see everyone getting through at this point in time, but there's a big stretch out, particularly further back in that pack. So they've all settled in nice and cleanly. And we're off and racing again for the second time tonight.
Yeah, the pack is starting to catch up here as well. You know, they're starting to come through the tail enders all through. As you can see at the moment, there's somebody off the side of the circuit there running a little bit deep into turn 1. Not an ideal scenario. We'll keep an eye and see how they keep moving. Nick Wood did manage to hold that Ford on the track going round there as well. That big Ford coming out, and he's done a great job. Adam Jetson's trying to keep up with Owen Coleman, and in the mid-pack you got Brandon Grock having a fight with Daniel Magri, and then you can see you got Dean Hunt and Richard Meyer further down scrapping it out as well. Interesting to see at the moment to see how this one pans out. You can see on the Elites show it is Ben Jeffrey out in front, who's just jumped Nick Wood, and Jeffrey in that Ferrari has put Nick Wood into second place at the moment. In the Challenger class, Foz, Matt Minimum and Edwards are your 1, 2, 3 at the moment. A lot going on here. This could be not only very strategic for some people, but they've also got to be aware of their surroundings within the circuit. You know, Nick Wood, as lovely as it would be to see him take a victory in a Ford, he's got to be aware that the Ford isn't the strongest car. You know, in conjunction with the booth here, Scotty, you're the youngest on the middle and Pete's the old man, and you know, we could put Pete down as a Ford, couldn't we, on that one? You know, so Nick Wood's got to drive within the limits of the Ford, I think.
Yeah, and you've already seen that mistake, just cold tyres. So that was the other thing that's sort of worthwhile pointing out, is we've really extended that cold tyre window. You know, yes, circulating around does put some temperatures into them. They still won't be quite up to temperatures, but the key thing for Nick is he's got to survive. And we've already had our second requested tow as well. It's come from the 948, which was Richard Mera actually said. And we have our second safety car of the night. Guess what? It's a Porsche at the exit of 130R.
Oh, Pete on the curb. There he goes in the wall. Oh, boom, baby. Like I've got a crystal ball. Look at that.
Now, I'm on Pete's side here.
No.
It went into the right-hand barrier, and I believe that you said the left-hand side.
Oh,
Correct.
really? You're being picky over the barrier? Give over. What, the Porsche?
I have to be. There's no alcohol on the UK flag.
Pete, get on, son. I want that UK flag outside. You said to call you out, and I said fine, and I'm calling you out. It doesn't matter whether it was the left or right. It was around 130R, and it was a Porsche. So Pete Baxter, photo. Come on, Sonny. Union Jack, let's go.
I'll give it to you, buddy. I'll work that out this week. I've got to tell you, mate, that is a bloody good call, because I reckon that anybody who was driving the Force had done enough practice laps not to do that in at least 5 laps of the race, you know?
Yeah.
So to call out and get it so sweet, I think that was like destiny. I was in trouble tonight, whatever I said. So.
Just to confirm, you know, it is a Porsche out of 130R into the wall. So, yeah, there you go. Everybody at home, you can say, ask me for lottery numbers. I'm not going to say you will win, but there you go. As far as the Porsche.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Just watch that one back. Now, the key factor here to the curbing, particularly the exit of 130R and Spoon, those two curbs have got a big gutter runs along the back. They're really, really good for drainage. But unfortunately, with the iRacing time model, and I've come agree for this, which is where I found it, there is actually a huge gap in the tyre. So when you come around it, if you sit on the edge of the curb, there's about half the tyre that's actually off the ground. If you just go over the red and white striped section of the track, he hasn't done that though. That was my first point that I was looking for, and he absolutely hasn't lost it. It's right about, there. He just gets a little bit of a wriggle on just before it gets to the curb.
Yeah.
And it's just unsettled from there, and then the traction control kicks in.
And then Pete Baxter waving a Union Jack. Love it.
In front of the Bundaberg Rum Factory. All right, I'll have to work that out. Yeah, so I'm in trouble now.
Well, you know what I mean? I can't argue with the facts, Pete, and we've got it all on video as well, and it's on YouTube forever, so you can't even argue that one. But yeah,
isn't YouTube temporary? Oh no, that's Instagram.
Yeah, sorry, mate. And Twitch gets rid of it after 48 hours, and I'm not on there either. So it is YouTube. You will be able to see it, and we will post a picture on the JPB socials of Pete waving a Union Jack flag as punishment for the fact that he's just lost a bet. There we go.
Pete, I mean, there was no context about whether or not you had to wave it without another sign alongside of it that says they abandoned us here. So,
no,
I mean...
no, that was not part of it.
It doesn't say have to wear clothes either, right? So,
no, mate. If you want to show everyone your tinky, that's, you know what I mean. That's entirely up to you. But trust me, that's not a sign.
We're not after 9:30. We can't. Yeah. We're not after 9:30 in Australia. We can't talk that way. We're not into the R-rated category.
You don't want to be. You know, you just. Preferably jeans or a t-shirt or shorts, you know, if you need an umbrella because it's raining at the moment, whatever. But please keep it PG and let's not reveal the goods, shall we say. You know what I mean?
Question while we're under safety car is how well does JP think he knows Pete Baxter? We've posted 3 times together.
Well, you know, I'd like to think you were a sensible, honest guy, but, you know, maybe I've got that a bit wrong. But either way, I won.
How can I be sensible and honest? I'm commentating for a league.
Well, this is true. And you're Australian, so you know what I mean.
Mate, hang on. Now, all the drivers that have ever known Pete, he's also a race controller. He can't ever be right. He's clearly in charge. His stewards, they're always wrong.
Oh, I'm wrong about everything, JP. Absolutely. I can never make a right decision in my life. So whatever I wear or don't wear
oh my God.
There'll be a decision right or wrong. Now, I've got to tell you, though, I still think now, let's go back to the Challenger Series. While we're on the safety car, I did a quick calculation, right? So with the drop rounds, Dean Hunt is 140 points behind Alfonso Latella. So to win the championship tonight in the challenge round, Dean Hunt needs to get more than 140 points behind on Alfonso. So Alfonso's in front of him at the moment, so not a chance. I'm going to do a little bit more digging and try and work out what sort of position change that needs to be for Dean to be able to get Alfonso in the championship tonight, the Challenger. So leave that with me.
Well, Latella is sitting in 4th at the moment, so that's going to be a bit of a mission as Adam Holland, Jimmy Middleton and Simon Honey are into the pits here as well. So they've decided that well, basically barely 17 minutes, or 15 minutes, should we say, in that they're going to take a pit stop. So that will be an interesting one. That's the thing. If we continue, you know, we know that saying goes in NASCAR, Scotty, yellows breed yellows and safety cars breed safety cars. Let's hope we're not going to get that here, because obviously it's road racing a little bit. It should be a little bit more sensible. But they've still got to be aware of where they're at in conjunction with fuel strategy, whether they're going to go in and make the change, whether they're not going to make the change, what's going to happen, how they're going to get on. There's a lot involved at the moment with these two early ones, and it could be quite interesting to see some of these strategies, I think.
Yeah, but the other thing, JP, is that we've had a lot of laps behind the safety car now. Any tyre temperature that these guys have built is already left. And we'd only been green for 3/4 of a lap. If I'm out there right now, I'm weaving around like a mad thing. I've got to get temperature in it. It comes from TCRs. I know with the TCRs, you can do a big difference in terms of your temperatures, and those things require temperature in the front tires. If you're, the difference between a car is attempting to get any sort of temperature in those front tires and a driver who isn't, is about a lap in terms of getting to peak tire operating temperatures. So for these guys right now, yes, fuel saving is important. Absolutely, you're thinking of potentially making strategies. A couple of guys at the back end. I actually want to be one of the guys that's pit, and one of the reasons for that is because I actually get half a lap, 1/4 of a lap, where I'm running around at half speed, 1/4 speed. I'm running a lot faster than these other guys. That's tire temp. I'm going to have a lot more grip available to me. But if I'm in that queue right now, I'm moving that thing around. I've got to get some temperature into these tires.
Now, I watched a video recently when people were discussing the weaving within iRacing, and they were saying, you know, does it make a massive difference? What is going to be the difference, if any? So they went out, they run a car, didn't weave once, right? And the tire temperatures were where roughly they should be. Then they went out, did the same lap, weaved around all the time to try and get temperature in, and the temperature gain was minimal, absolutely minimal on that situation. Now, obviously, we've all been in races where there's that guy who's weaving all the way from the left to the right, and you're in a 2-lane queue, and you're there just wanting to kick him because he's just being annoying. You know, I don't know if it makes a big difference. I don't, you know, as I say, you can only go off what proof you've been given.
It's not huge, no.
It's minimal. No, I just don't think it would be worth risking anything in conjunction with making contact with people or whatever. I understand what you're saying about the half a lap at full pace. I think that would be a good idea, but I don't think whether or not weaving is there. And as Rue said, dragging the brake is more important. It is. I think brake dragging and heating up the rims.
It's a combination. Yeah, you can't.
I don't think
you've got to have a go. Either way, we are about to go back to green flag racing, and we'll see who has got the goods on these cold tyres. So far, it has been Ben Jeffrey who's been slick on the cold tyres, and a mistake presented itself from Nick Wood. And now he's reverted to playing spectator to the start of Ben Jeffrey, who gets a great run off the final corner. On the run down to turn number 1, who is going to be brave on these opening laps? The pack is a little bit more together than it was on the previous restart. Big gap in behind P5. So for Alex K, he's a fair way off the back end of things at the moment, and they're all just tiptoeing into turn 1, I would say, at this point in time. Again, there's no tire temperature. They're all searching for anything that they can possibly find, and for now, they all survive.
Yeah, they do at the moment. Ben Jeffrey out in front with Nick Wood there as well. Then we've got a 1.5 second gap to Foz, who's in the Porsche. So, you know, see how that one pans out. With Martin Halloran, Leek McClure, Brandon Grock, and Daniel Magri behind him with Adrian Gretsch as well. Was the Foz normally in the McLaren, in that green liveried machine that he normally drives?
Oh, he's gone all vanilla on us tonight, mate. He's dropped the lime milkshake McLaren. He's made his one car switch for the series that he's allowed, and he's jumped into the Porsche. So I would have rather seen him drive the McLaren and in that lovely lime green livery, but you know, he's destined to run the JP curse and see if he can get through 130R for 2 hours and see what happens. But yeah, a bit vanilla on the old Foz, but look, he's up a little bit further than he has been in the field for some races, so that's really good to see.
Yeah, definitely. Maybe the Porsche's a little bit more comfortable than the McLaren, but who knows? At the end of the day, we'll see how it all pans out. At the moment, though, he's leading the Challenger class, so that's great for him in general. Stephen Lawrence and Brand Tucker a bit further down. This is a battle for 25th, 26th, and Ricky Provenzali behind him in that BMW there in 28th. So there's pockets all the way through here, Scotty. Battles all the way through, and at the end of the day, that could only mean that we're going to get some great racing.
One of the difficulties is trying to follow on the run down into 130R as well. You've got to be close enough to get the run out the other side. For this little battle pack, as they run down in, they are nearly close enough to get the job done. And there's a little bit of a moment, and there's the second Porsche that'll exit stage left. It'll be Brent Tucker this time. Although he's managed to revive that thing and keep it out the other side.
And in 130R. Gee, Pete, we should have had a bet on what the second car was. I could have had some great fun with the Lincoln forfeit after this one, I can tell you that much. But Ben Jeffrey, Nick Wood scrapping it out, still at the front here with Owen Coleman in there as well. And we know Coleman's strong in that Mercedes, Jeffrey's strong in a Ferrari. What's Wood going to be able to do in that Ford? That's going to be the question here, Scotty. I think it's going to be an interesting one. See how it all pans out and see what happens as it goes on. But let's have a look at what Brad Tucker found himself up to as he goes into 130R. Was there contact from Prabhansari? Nope. The back end just stepped out and into the left wall he went.
I'll tell you what, Ricky was covering that brake pedal at that point in time because not really much of a place for him to go. In the meantime, back up at the front of things, gonna have to keep half an eye on this Ford because its straight line speed is its biggest asset. When you trim this thing out, is the fastest of all the GT3s in a straight line. The problem is, yeah, trimming it out and the balance of the thing, and have a look at the older style dash. That's very reminiscent of the old GT1 days. If either of you fellas have been driving the Aston Martin or the Corvette, I think it's C8 GT1 racing?
No.
No, I haven't. But yeah, and to be honest, mate, Nick Wood doesn't have to win tonight. He's really just got to finish.
I agree with you.
Yeah, he's under no pressure to win. He can let really aggressive drivers go. So, from a championship standpoint, I don't think we're going to see Nick really fight tonight. He's there to finish and take the trophy, to be honest. There we go. He's had another car just nearly hit the 130R curb.
Yeah,
I'm a big Ben Jeffrey fan at the moment because if Ben beats Nick Wood, I save myself $50. So.
Oh, that's because you got the win bet, haven't you? Yeah,
yep.
That's the single bet for a Ford winning. So, yeah, all right. Oh, yeah, you see, what's against him?
Oh, he's gone! He's gone! Nick's actually just lost the rear end of the car down at turn 2. So, as we're having a look at those pictures live, Nick Wood has just lost the rear end of the car down in turn 1.
There he is. He's just coming out the corner there as well. And unfortunately, the Ford just said, no, mate, you can't push me like that. And around he's gone. He has lost a bumper. Okay, the bumper's back on, so that's amazing. So he's still got the car. He's still got everything attached to it.
There's another car off.
Yeah, there's a Ferrari
I think
as
it's
well.
Brandon Grosh.
There's
No, it wasn't Grosh. It might have been Luke McClimate.
Yeah, McClimate went off as well. So at the moment we got Grok. Grok's gone off, McKay's gone off, Wood's gone and spun the car up, McClimate's gone and taken a trip across the grass in turn 1. So a lot of action already happening. These cars are on cold tyres as Foz battles away with McKay. You've got to give him room there, buddy. You can't squeeze him against the line too much. And now for McKay, now for Kay, he can just open it up a little bit, take the nose off Foz, not let him through. But that car under Alec Kay in that Lambo is basically giving... He's taking a lot of pressure at the moment from Foz in that Porsche.
I tell you what, doesn't Foz look good? The change of car is serving him well. Really, really serving him well. All of a sudden, he's come to life in that thing. And
he's gone from racing in the teens to racing in the top 10. So, and that's at the start of the race. Hopefully, he can hang on to the Porsche.
No, Pete, no, don't say that. Oh, you've done him.
Because, well, look, I've been drinking live milkshakes all year just because he bloody brought out the McLaren in that colour. So, so he'll be fine. No, Foz, he'll be fine. He'll be good.
I swear to God, Pete, you've done him in.
You have. He's in at some point.
You guys are blaming me. What was that thing that JP brought up about 130Rs going on first?
Hey, John,
but we didn't mention a specific driver. You specifically mentioned him.
Yeah, I said it could be anyone.
You'll be fine, buddy.
Well, John O'Kiley, I can tell you one thing is not fine. He's gone, slammed on the brakes in that Lambo. Literally got too much entrance speed and nearly went up to the back there. And now Alec Kay is unfortunately off the side of the circuit. So a lot of action going on. The interesting thing about this train is it goes all the way down to Leaf McClellan. You see them all going through there. Nick Wood's trying to come back through in that Ford, but he's got Grok Greg, Magri, Hanlon, Foz, and all in front of him at the moment with Alec Kay. So there's a lot going on here, Scotty, and if they, well, I don't want to say if one person has a mistake, but if one person has a mistake, they could all find themselves involved in it. So they've got to be a little bit sensible. As they say, only a fool breaks the 2-second rule. Well, let's hope that doesn't quite work out with these guys.
They're 2 by 2 as Gresh is now, sorry, that was Daniel Magri, was actually fighting off the car ahead of him. And for Magri, that was Martin Hallinan, who was having a good old battle with. And Gresh was fighting off Grosh. So it's the battle of the vowels between Adrian Gresh and Brennan Grosh. Is an E or an O better in the surname?
Well, E comes first, but I tell you what, I've been looking again. I've been just watching this Challenger thing. Alfonso Lieutenant. Alfonso sitting in 16th. Thank you. Dean Hunt sitting in 21st. Dean really needs to get in front of Alfonso to have a chance. So if Alfonso comes around, if Dean wins, Alfonso just needs to come 7th or better. So, but he's still going to get in front of him. I think Alfonso's.
Oh, there's another car off.
Could be trouble.
There was another car off. There's another pile up as they get into the final corner. And I think it was Adrian Gresh that was around. Indeed, it was.
Yeah, it was Gresh. He's just got to sit there and wait. Lucky enough, he managed to get that. Oh, there was a Ferrari in the background.
Brennan Grosh.
Yeah, taking a trip. Grosh then. Oh, whoa. That's got to be a penalty. I don't want to call penalties, but that was absolutely.
Little penalties, but I think there's trouble there.
Yeah, look at that. That's like a torpedo.
He's missed his braking marker by a fair way, and I'll tell you what, Nick Wood was in the middle of that.
A fairway? Did he even hit his braking marker? Hold on a minute here, Scotty. Let's call it as he is. He was miles away from it there, unfortunately, for minimum, and I can guarantee old Race Control will be jumping all over him on that one as well. And obviously, you know, Pete, from your perspective as a Race Control, what would you give him?
Well, mate, I reckon he was as close to his braking marker as the Porsche hitting the left-hand side versus the right-hand side of the barrier. But, but I think he's going to be in trouble. Because at the end of the day, the car behind has a responsibility to make sure that the car in front gets through the corner safely. And you're defined to be behind unless you're right up to half car width, and that's at corner entry, and he wasn't anywhere near that. So I think the stewards will have a close look at that, and we might find their first penalty of the race come out.
Yeah, I believe so.
It's not the first. Matt Keen's actually already earned himself 2 penalties, actually. Both of them for contact with John O'Kiley, mind you. On lap 1, which ended up in him losing his rear wing, and then again on lap 4, which was immediately on the restart. So either way, we have our third safety car of the evening, 30 minutes in. That's about averaging 10 minutes per safety car at the moment. Pete, I think this is a slam dunk in terms of the strategy at the moment.
Yeah, no, it's still the same, but we're 32 minutes in, and the fuel tank would normally last about 42 minutes in these races. So this is a really good chance to actually get in, and to be honest, you still got another stop anyway to get through, and potentially you've actually got 2 stops still to get through here, probably from 32 minutes. We're not quite on the fringe of the window, but if you are really smart, can fuel save, and there's 1 or 2 more safety cars, then maybe you can pull a surprise. So tricky time in the race, 32 minutes in.
3 cars have come into the pit lane to take their first stop of the night. Gresh was one of them who was actually the cause of the safety car. Darren Burgess and Daniel Magri, the other 2. Just a fraction outside the pit window, says strategy caller Jesse McMenamin. After that incident as well, is going to come in for some damage repair. John O'Kiley, Matt Keen now in as well. Sean Benicki and Jimmy Middleton. So for these guys that were lurking around in the high 20s, indeed even outside that into the 30s, I think this is a no-brainer in terms of stop, because I reckon you're going to save yourself 25 seconds worth of static time in the pit lane here, Pete?
Yeah, absolutely, because we're so close to the normal pit time anyway, and if you can take the pit and then catch up to everybody else, then you've actually got an advantage on them. And that's the sort of thing that you look at. I'm actually surprised that at 33 minutes they didn't go in, but everybody knows that it's too early to just do 2 stops to the end. So It is a risk to go in, but again, if you're on the back half of the field, it's a no-brainer, to be honest. It's an opportunity you often get, or actually don't often get. It's an opportunity you can get that if you don't take, you will lose from, in my mind.
Yeah, if you've got track position, I think hanging on to it and not having potential risk ahead of you seems to be the call for the bulk of our top 10. In fact, all of the top 10 stayed out.
Well, the issue for the top 10 is by staying out, what they're going to find is in about 10 or 15 minutes, and it's going to be extended because of the 2 safety cars, so we might get to the 50-minute mark. But what they're going to find is when they come into the pits, it's the people in P10 to P30 that are actually going to overtake them, because they won't have had enough time to actually extend the gap to get a clear pit stop and come out in front. So they're going to put themselves back into the field. And if they come back into the field where they're in trouble with other cars, that could impact their race. So for somebody like Ben Jeffrey, who really wants a great result, that has a big thing. For somebody like Nick Wood, does it really matter? Nick's trying to finish, right? But for somebody in the challenger battle between Dean and Alfonso, that's actually a massive thing, right? If Alfonso comes out and he gets caught in a battle, Dean comes out and he's got like 5 laps of clear track with 5 seconds in front of him, then hey, gap's closed, right? That's as easy as things can change in these races. So it's a great time safety car, to be honest.
Are you nearly saying, Pete, that if you're looking for a little bit of clean track and to avoid these battle packs, let's fast forward to, you said you can get to 42 minutes. So for 42 minutes gets us to 84 minutes, which is an hour and 24 minutes. It's only going to be a 36-minute run home. So all of a sudden, I'm saying if we can get to 36 minutes into this race, which is literally a couple minutes away here, we can actually get home from there.
Correct. If you pit stop at the end of this race now, and I think the safety car is going to come in at the end of this lap, but if you pit at the end of this lap, you might very well be on now a one-stop strategy to the end. But the problem is, as soon as the safety car departs the field, effectively the whole field's under green, so you're pitting under green anyway. So we're right on that threshold. But hey, it's a good chance to take, because to be honest, you're going to come out, you're going to get a really clear track because it's a lovely 2-minute track. You're going to get heaps of clear space. And if you've been fighting somebody that you think you've been held up even 0.3, 0.4 of a second of a lap, ideal strategy, jump in, and actually you'll overtake those people that's been holding you up a couple of, just those tenths a lap, because you'll be able to do your normal race pace. And by the end of the race, you'll be well and truly in front of them. Absolutely no doubt. If I was crew chiefing, that's what I'd be telling to somebody, any driver who's saying to me, he's been holding me up, but I can't get past him.
So let's talk a little bit of tyre strategy then, Pete, because we've only had that sort of flash in the pan worth of green flag racing. Would you be saying, I reckon the tyres will probably do their second stint now?
No, I don't concern myself with tyres in this league. With the 65% fuel tank, the tyres on the GT3 are always going to make the stint, right? So, the tyres in the GT3, as long as you look after them in the first lap, they're designed for 100% fuel tank. They're designed for an hour's worth of racing. And, previously, iterations before we had some upgrades, the tyres you could do 2 or 3 stints on. So I'm comfortable that tyres are not an issue. Now, the guys in the Ford might say otherwise, right? Because they've worked a whole lot of time and actually getting their setup right so that they can save their tyres, so they can actually balance it right and not wear them out. Because as we've heard and as we've read, the Fords kill the tyres insanely badly. But essentially, for all of the other cars with a good setup, I don't think tyres are an issue, to be honest. It's actually more drivers than tyres. I think what the safety car does gives the driver an ability to reset. So it's a driver and a fuel race. It's not so much a tyre race in my mind.
Righto, so safety car period number 3 will be ending at the end of this lap. And there's been a little bit of a concertina effect, I think, on this lap as it's progressed a bit. But that's all resolved itself now as we got through the hairpin. Safety car's about to pull away. Promise. And that was the concertina effect that we were just seeing moments ago at the hairpin. It was exactly the car. It was actually Jimmy Middleton that we were looking at in his white, black and red Ferrari.
Yeah,
Well, ladies and gents, safety car Go ahead, Pete. Go ahead, JP, sorry.
There was quite a few people flashed up as if they'd gone into each other. Norris, Long, Holland, Tucker, McKay. Burgess has been off the side of the circuit, apparently. Magri, Benici, Meyer, Middleton, McMinimum, Gerard, Keane, all involved in that concertina stuff. But let's get the race up and running again.
Yeah, Ben Jeffrey is going to lead clear yet again, and this time he is going to have, it's been a different pair at the front end of this field. The order has been different every single restart across just those top 2 cars, let alone further back. So for the 3rd time tonight, we get back to green flag racing. This time it's Ben Jeffrey versus Owen Coleman. Coleman gets to his rear bumper on the run down to turn number 1, but not far enough up alongside. Tyre temperatures starts to dip away a bit, and this will be the first time in a long time that we will get the opportunity to see what that will do to the performance of these cars.
Yeah, I think the fact they've just got to get it around the first corner and get it onto running as best they possibly can here. You know, you've had a safety car, we've had another one, and now we've had another one. And what they've got to make sure, whatever they're going to be able to do, first important section will be getting some heat into them tyres. Give it some on the first couple of laps, get them up, and then you can deal with everything that happens after that. If you're not going to get heat into these tyres, you are going to really struggle. The guys in the Fords are probably going to hope, for the like of Nick Wood here, that they don't put too much in, as the Ford does eat the tyres quite consistently. So let's see how they all plan this one out here, Scotty. I think it's going to be very interesting development as the race goes on. Hour and 21 minutes left on the clock. We've been going 40 already, and literally at the moment the top 22 have not pitted.
Ladies and gentlemen, your pit stop window now open as well. So 1 lap worth of fuel. There's a huge accident at Spoon Curve, and everyone's managed to get by. I was worried because it happened just up the road from Latella. I think it was Martin Hallinan that went around in the BMW, and indeed he sat on the outside of Spoon at the moment trying to find a hole to get back in.
Oh, he was helped. He was helped there, Scotty. Brian Grott helped him go round all on his own there. So Grock's not having a good one, should we just say, but that was not all on Martin Hallinan. He was helped along his way.
A little bit of tap there, and I think the race controllers will have a look at that. Now, Marty Hamilton was one of the guys who was really struggling to get us set up in this car, and before the race felt that he was going to qualify really poorly and have to fight through the grid. So that's interesting to see Marty there. At least he's up. He was up, you know, reasonably high in the field, and he's going to have another fight back.
Speaking of guys that are on a fight back, Nick Wood started 12th, up to 8th. By the way, he is picking cars off left, right and centre. That safety car was just about perfectly timed. And in the meantime as well, for our race lead, this is the closest we've actually had 3 cars for the race lead at this point in time, because Coleman is going with Ben Jeffrey when presented with an opportunity. Now, given in terms of the point standings, it would need a huge drop-off in terms of points. It is massive, the points differential between our leader and his biggest rival at the moment. And the benefit has been how strong Nick Wood has been across the season. Even if tonight is his worst night, effectively Coleman would have to win it and would have to check every single box along the way. And qualifying on pole was one of those ones, and he did not check that box tonight.
No, and I think that's the thing.
I don't think that's a real issue. Yeah, I don't think that's an issue for Nick, but you know, we are a lot closer in the position for 2 and 3. So leave that with me. I'll come back with stats between Coleman and Jeffrey and see whether there's a change pending there.
Yeah, I think it's going to be very interesting. We've got Pete in the background doing maths, and it's bad enough a commentator trying to do maths while we're on the fly anyway. So let's see how he can come out. I'm sure Pete is a capable statistician. I don't even know if that's a word, or I've just made that one up here. As Owen Coleman looking up. Jeffrey's coming into Casio, not going to make it through this time around. He's surely got to come up this corner, Scotty. Put it to the wall on the right-hand side. If he doesn't cover that inside line off, I can guarantee Coleman's going to have it. And there you go. Jeffrey has decided enough's enough. I need to go and hug the line. He did do. It's a straight drag down into turn 1 now. Coleman is running the line around the outside. He's going to make this work, Scotty. He's got it deep. Jeffrey's got the... Oh! He did manage to get that work.
I would swear for half a moment that Ben Jeffrey was about to shove the nose of that Ferrari back down the inside. But that will tell you straight away that Owen Coleman is running a lot less wing than the other cars around him. It seems the Ferraris are quite strong in this first sector.
Yeah.
And then when they get around to the straight line, it's at 130R. All of a sudden, from then on, Coleman's creating the opportunities, applying pressure, and that's what it was. Setting it up was the key thing. He wasn't looking for the move at Cassio. He was getting it done at turn 1, but he set it up in Cassio.
Yeah, he definitely did, and it's all about placing people where you want them, right? You know, it's like making a film. You've got to have the extras in the right place to make the scene look good, with the guy at the front who's the lead going all, you know, crazy and stuff. And that's what the difference is with Coleman. He did set him up on Cassio, but he set him up and he had confidence in the Merc. Most people who drive that Merc would not have taken that round the outside of 1, because as we've seen with the Merc as well, the back end does like to get a little bit slippery at times. So you've got to make sure that you can control that. And for Coleman, he did. He set him up in Cassio. He put him against the wall, which was great. That's where Jeffrey needed to be. That's where he should have been. The problem is it tightened up the entrance coming into 1, therefore making him slower, allow Coleman to go deeper on the brakes, get that Merc stopped and running around the outside, and he did just that. The problem for Coleman now is how much can he hang on with Jeffrey behind him? Can he keep this position away, or is Jeffrey going to try and do the same thing? Maybe he's going to do the same thing on him, Scotty, and was a see for that run down in turn 1. I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think Coleman's going to go over to the wall, because I don't think Jeffrey's close enough.
Oh, no, I have to agree with that. Another incident's happened at the hairpin on this lap. I think it might have been between the 22, which would be Grosh, and I believe it was 605 at Skulls.
Skulls,
the two cars that had it coming together on the most recent laps. That one's being investigated. Race Control's got their hands full here tonight. Unfortunately.
Yeah, and unfortunately for...
that's the aftermath for Coleman.
Yeah, I'm just trying to find it as well. You can see from... Rock is clearly having a bad... Well, no, he's clearly having a bad night in general, is Brandon Rock. Again, look at that. Come on. This isn't driving. This is... I'm not sure what this is. But if anybody really wants to talk about missing braking points... Oh, he was helped.
What's going on there?
Yeah, he was helped from the BMW behind him. Was that Provenzali behind him? It may have helped him there as well. No, Provenzali's too far up. Who is in the Riot BMW? Might have been Magri. Yeah, possibly Magri. I'm going to try and see if I can pick Magri up. No, it isn't Magri at the point that they've made contact there as well. So, yeah, unfortunately for...
Stefan Lawrence.
Yeah. You can see here, he just gets a nudge on him, and you'll see him come in like an absolute freight train. But if you have a look at Lawrence, you can see the contact. They're going at it here, and then Lawrence slips in behind him now, goes in, there's the contact, and unfortunately, that's the aftermath. So although Grop did cause the incident, you've got to look at what was going on behind with Lawrence first. How Race Control are going to separate whether or not they're going to punish the actual incident or the aftermath, well, that would be, they've got to be careful on setting a precedent on that one, because that's always becomes a discussion of Race Control.
Mate, from a Race Control's perspective, you'll never... I don't think, I know the guys out there are experienced enough. You don't punish aftermath, right? It's actually about going back, seeing what caused it, and seeing what got them out of the ordinary in that case. So I think that was fun enough to go back and have a look at that. And I think Brendan should be fine, because he was sort of an innocent victim, and so was the right car a little bit after. Now let's come back to the points though. Ben Jeffrey and Owen Coleman is a fascinating thing at the front, right? So Ben Jeffrey needs 48 points tonight over Owen Coleman, and that's the difference between first place and fourth place. So Jeffrey needs to win with Coleman in fourth for Ben Jeffrey to take second in the championship.
So I've just seen, lads, as well, there's another penalty. There's a couple of penalties that come through. So Grosh did get the penalty for contact with Martin Hallinan. There's also been a penalty awarded to Brent Tucker. And he actually was questioning it, what the go was with that one. And I went back and had a look at it, and there was absolutely not a car width left. So the difficulty was that was actually coming up through Dunlop and on the run down to the double right-handed kink before you come underneath the bridge. And that is really difficult to try and get a pass done, let alone get side by side through there. So I think there's a few guys out there that are pinning the ears back a little bit tonight. I think common sense has drifted a fraction out the window. Pete, any words as a race controller of their drivers right now?
relax, guys. Just get into your driving and you know, there's still more than an hour left in this race. So you can't win a race in the first hour. You can't win it in the first lap. You can only win it by finishing. And if you don't finish without crashing, you're never going to be up front. So settle out. I know everybody wants to advance and get through the race, but sometimes it's actually smart just to lift, wait, have some patience and wait for the guy in front of you to make a mistake, the guy or girl in front of you to make a mistake, and then that's when you actually pounce and take the opportunity and go forward. If they don't, let's be a sport and say, hey, good on you, I put a whole lot of pressure on you, I had a ball doing it, and that was good fun racing, but you deserve the win. So, you know, look, we've got to be smart, especially in 2-hour races. You know, it's hard to win a 40-minute race, let alone a 2-hour race. So you can't just, you know, blast right through.
Yeah, we've had Foz go into the pit, so that puts Latella in second. You can see Trent Allen and Stephen Lawrence having a battle here as well. Hugo Sutherland and Dean Hunt is here, so Hunt is near Latella. He's only 2 places back at the moment. He's got a bit of a mission on his hands, though. There is a little bit of a train of cars there. If we're not going to punish the aftermath of Grot going into somebody there, then Stephen Lawrence, I'm expecting, or Stefan Lawrence, I'm sorry, I would be expecting a penalty then, Scotty, if that's what we're saying in conjunction what happened at the hairpin.
They've just reviewed that one and said no further action. So whether or not, I would say race control have said something that's triggered that one.
What could?
So anyway, it's been left as it is. Either way, we're moving on with that one. Not much more that can necessarily happen. In the meantime, though, highlight a drive so far that has been really, really good. Obviously, we said Nick Wood was incredibly quick. Remember, it restarted 11th on that restart? Well, that was only about 7-8 laps ago. He's now up to 5th place.
Yeah, he is doing an awesome job in the Ford. I think that's one of the things, you know, you can't take away from Nick. You know, he's an experienced driver. He knows what he's doing. He's not silly. You know, he can do things with the Ford that others can't do, like the little Gerard, like Keane, like Burgess. So let's see how this one all goes for Nick Wood. As we said, he's just got to finish the race. He doesn't have to do anything crazy, just finish the race. And if he gets in a battle with the likes of Jepson and Dawson, who are scrapping around going into turn 1 here, does he need to get involved? Absolutely not. Can he sit back and wait? Absolutely. So let's see what goes on and see how Wood handles this, if he can keep up with the guys in front. But Trent Allen at the moment is under some great pressure from Lawrence, with Sutherland, with Hunt, with Provençali, all behind him. So we've got a 5-car train developing here, Sky, as we go up in through the S's.
Yeah, and multiple manufacturers involved, which is what you like to see. And for Ricky Provençali, tail end of it, it's effectively at the head of this pack. It's going to be Ferrari, BMW, Ferrari, Porsche, BMW. But that doesn't mean that we haven't got 3 manufacturers. That's what we love about GT3 racing. As soon as the cars start to get nice and even across the field, great for some immense racing at the moment. We're going to head back down in and underneath the bridge. And for Hugo Sutherland, is actually the car just ahead of is the green Ferrari, 3rd in this queue. There's a little bit of damage to the left-hand rear quarter panel of that car, so definitely been contact there at some point. And for Dean Hunt, he needs to get a move. He's really got to get on the bike at this point in time. Alfonso Latena's only 2.5 seconds, 3 seconds down the road of him at the moment, so he's still in touch, but he has to catch and beat, and that's the tricky thing that he's got in front of him at the moment.
Well, as we know, you know, it's one thing catching, another thing overtaking. Right, we know that. And at the end of the day, they've just got to try and do what they can do. You haven't got to do anything silly. Hugo Sutherland past Stephen Lawrence there as well. Lawrence have got in a little bit wrong coming out of Spoon. That's opened himself up. Sutherland said, thank you very much, I'll have some of that. Lawrence tucking in behind him. Over the curve they go on the exit there. They do manage to make it. Lawrence is trying to come around the outside going into Casio. He's not going to make it through in that BMW. Sutherland's just parked it. The problem with parking it is now look at the time he's lost. That's the problem.
Hang on.
There was somebody out there.
Was that XK?
Yeah,
that was Alex K.
K and McClimate. Leave McClimate as well has been off. the side of the circuit. I think this was all a bunched up effect. There's K there, and McClimate. Oh, the problem with that one, the problem with that one is the fact that obviously from their perspective, you know, Leaf was on the inside. He was off track, so he's not entitled to space to come back on. You know, so really, I would probably put that on the Ferrari more than Alec Kay in the Lambo. But that's just my opinion.
Well, I think there's more going on with that because
if he's off the track, he doesn't have space.
Well, yeah, but I think the reason that Alex Kay's come back to the right-hand side, I think he was actually trying to pit. And I just don't think that he expected the car to be there, was the difficulty. So obviously he's gotten forced off by the Porsche, which is Cam Edwards, as he's shot through, but he's trying to enter the pit lane on that lap.
But yeah, so, there's more to go on to it though, but because Alex Kay was being overtaken into the chicane before he came out. So he'd come out already slow when Leaf was on full speed.
It's just a comedy of errors, if you'll say. It's just wrong place, wrong time for both of those guys, and opportunistic for Leith. But I mean, if he hasn't got the fuel to go the extra lap, he has to get to the lane. But you cover that, you cover that harder to the right-hand side of the road. I mean, that's a tricky situation.
I think
and the other situation, Leith went a little bit off track there too.
Yeah, I think that's the thing for me. I think if McClimate was alongside him on the grey stuff, I would say yes, he deserved room. Off the side of the circuit, trying to come back on, I'm not quite sure where he's expecting Kate to go when you're trying to stick your nose up the inside. So for me, that is a no-brainer. That would be on Leaf for that. I don't think, as anything, you know, I've discussed with multiple commentators about this. Do they deserve room if they're off the side of the circuit due to their own fruition? And the answer is no. So for Kay, he didn't need to give McClimate room.
Well, they don't, mate. And Leith's already got a black flag for it. So he's come into the pits. The reason he's come out and he's going to deserve the black flag because, and I think race control has seen exactly what you've seen, which is gone off the track outside the white lines. And as he's come back on, he's called Alex to spin as Alex has tried to come into the pits. So, yeah.
There you go.
I'm not supporting anyone. I'm just trying to say, there was another pit stop cycle happening in the middle of that. In the meantime, Matt Gerard has come unstuck off with Spoon. So something happened there. And I believe his night is, unfortunately, no, it's just a Ford getting away from him through the Spoon curve, unfortunately, and made it all the way to the barrier and destroyed the rear end of that race car.
Yeah, he's already
How do we go from a Porsche doing Porsche things, Pete, you to carry a flag, to, mate, that's just a Ford?
Well, it is.
Got it. You've done me in there.
But wasn't it 130R?
It was Spoon. Come on, Pete. We said 130R in a Porsche. And Gerard just didn't. I don't even know if Gerard was applying the brakes there because I know where that gravel was a little bit deeper. So in an ideal world, he probably could have made that. We said a Porsche at 130R, which was correct. I'd like to point that out again, just in case you missed it there. I was correct. So I think for now, Pete, you've got no argument. Just get on.
You must be mate, if you're going to point out how many times you're correct.
Well, I'm loving this, mate. There ain't often, Pete, as the wife tells me. I'm hardly right, if at all. You know what it's like.
Me neither.
The top three are in the pit, so Coleman, Jeffrey, and Jepson. So, and Wood is also in. Dawson's in. I'm expecting Edwards, Allen, and Provenzali to come in. Magri's been in, Holland's been in, and Meyer's been in. Obviously, Meyer has been in, but he has also been in a little few of. He's had some little tats, should we say, as the race has gone on. So for Richard Meyer, he's also gone in. But this is Hugo Sutherland and in there, and then Alfonso Latella in the BMW. The thing for Latella is obviously Hunt. Where is Hunt at the moment? Well, for anybody who's paying attention, Dean Hunt is now only one car back behind him. There is Hunt in that Porsche, and he's now chasing Latella, who's in front of him. But Latella's got to be well out of position, Pete, I think you said as well, didn't you?
Yeah, Latella's got to be more than 7 spots behind Dean wherever he finishes, at least for Dean to have a look in. So if Dean finishes this race in first, Alfonso's got to be in P7 or worse for Dean to have a crack at it.
Bit of a far stretch there, Scotty. I think you agree on that one. No,
I mean, it's
man.
Yeah, it's a stretch. It's a stretch, but it's possible. And the key factor is with all these guys feeding back in and around traffic right now. If it's gonna happen, it's now. And have a look at the guys who went long in that terms of that first stint as well. So we've got multiple drivers who pit on lap 13. Daniel Magri's the first of those drivers, leads the race at the moment. I reckon he can make it to the end of this race with only one stop. So I think this is actually effective position. So for those drivers who come under that last safety car, I reckon they've saved themselves a pit stop. And I think we're about to see this race sort of get shuffled up a little bit, because have a look where Sean Bonici is right now.
I still think we got the guys who've just so the fellas that have eked it out to like 57 minutes was the longest one that I've seen so far. So with 43 minutes, they've still got about let's say about an 18-minute worth of fuel drop to put in. What it will save them time in the pit, because they don't have to put as much fuel in because they've run long. But now they're going to have to run in traffic for at least 20 minutes for all of those cars that stopped in the first 20 minutes. I don't think we're now at a one-stop race for all cars, but the difference now is how much fuel they have to put in to get in, given how much they've got.
Well, your Bonici theory has just gone out the window as he's just put that Porsche round in spoon. On the curb on the outside, unsettles the Porsche. Take care, good night, Vienna for Sean Bonici. So, yeah, as much as you love the fact, obviously, with pit stops and stuff, he's not done himself any favours. And unfortunately for Bonici, he has dropped down the order now, and he's down in 24th place. So not an ideal scenario. One of the things, obviously, at the moment is Adam Holland is basically sitting in second overall here. Holland pitted well. I've got him pitting down on lap 6. That's a long way to go. He might be able to take this now, do one more stop and then run to the end. So Holland at the moment is kind of sitting in a nice place. Meyer was on lap 12. Coleman was on lap 23. So we'll see how this one pans out. Some interesting strategies. Them safety cars, Scotty, have kind of thrown it up a little bit here, but it's wide open. You know, it's almost saying to somebody, how are you baking a lasagna? And I might bake it different to how you bake it, Scotty, to how Pete bakes it. So this is what the fuel strategy situation is at the moment. There's just so much going on. Everybody's taken different forms of strategy. So we'll see how this one pans out.
Yeah, to add into that analogy, some might bake it at 180 degrees for an hour. Some might bake it at 500 degrees for 10 minutes. Some of those are going to have a better lasagna than others, but hey, that's what he's on about. At the moment, the two best cars in terms of that strategy. So the critical factor is that last safety car, when it ended, was on the 36-minute mark. And what was our key number for that second stint, Pete? What was that last overhanging stint? It was about 36 minutes, was it?
No, 42. So yeah, if you got to 42, like 37. So yeah, I still think they have to do at least 2 stops.
A splash, you're saying, but it's a splash.
Yeah. But it's a second splash, so it's still 2 pit stops, right? So it's still two transitions through the lane. So yeah, and to be honest, look, I'll go back and think, I don't cook lasagna. My wife does the best one I know in Australia, so I don't even go near it. But, Scotty, let's go back to the last round of Premier Endurance last year at Bathurst. When we had safety cars in that round, guess who the driver was that pulled the best safety car strategy out and ended up winning? You remember that? That was Daniel Magri.
Yep.
Remember? He pulled it out, and I called him as, oh, no, that's way too early. And he fuel saved to the end. And, you know, to be honest, I remember that. He gave us both a shot and come out with a great result. So keep an eye on Daniel. I think, yeah, he might just be able to do what you're saying and you know, make the most of that early pit stop strategy.
One of the biggest issues he's going to have at this point in time is Owen Coleman's popped out after the pit lane strategies have transitioned through. And on the last time by, Owen Coleman was about 0.8 of a second faster than our race leader. And guess what? He's only 16 seconds back off his rear bumper. So that margin could disappear. In the meantime, we've got a Ford holding it up with the best of them. And there's a Ford at the back end of this pack. So it's basically a Ferrari and Porsche meat in the sandwich. A little bit of Strasbourg from Germany. And a little bit of the Italian fire coming out in the middle of the American sandwich. I tell you what, Pete, if there's a car that I'm keen to see in GT3 racing, it's the Mustang next year. Just something different. It's effectively going to be a BMW, but Americanized, in my mind.
It'll be nice. Look, I'm not a Ford driver, but it's good to see actually a refreshment of the Ford brand in the series. I think it'll mix it up, because I know there are a lot of people that love the Mustang, particularly in Australia, and would be keen to jump in and see what they can get out of it in the GT3 and run really well. So, I've never spent any money on a Ford. I don't know if I'm going to start, but that's a personal thing.
It just really depends as well on when you're going to get it. You know what I mean? If you're going to get it...
I agree.
If you're going to get it right at the beginning when it comes out, great. But, the Evo that's coming out on this update's been out for 2 years. So if we're waiting 2 years, then 2 years down the line, you might get the Mustang. I think this, if there's ever an issue that most of us are probably having with the fact of with iRacing in general, it's not the fact that the racing, it's not the track or the mechanics, it's not anything in conjunction with the actual sim. It's the time we're getting content. There's plenty more brand new TCRs that we haven't got. New GT3s, the Mustang's coming. We haven't got that either. The Cadillac was out at least 18 months before we got that as well. So I think if out of all of it, great, the Mustang's coming. And I think it's going to be absolutely amazing. And I'd love to see it. I saw it in a concept R-Factor 2 race that I did here as well with the modern championship that I've seen, and they had a Mustang out on track and it did look good, but when are we going to get it here in a sim that we all love? Not many of us are going to go escape over to R-Factor just to drive a Mustang. It's unlikely to happen, or go to a modded AC server and drive the new BTCCs. There's a lot of things.
Unless it's official. Unless it's supported. If it's modified content, I'm going to go over there for the kicks, for the novelty. But I'm not also going to just go over there constantly unless it's supported content. It's going to be real. But the other thing I think you were discounting, JP, is, well, it's an American car, and that means it'll be in quicker.
Really?
Yeah, well, that's true. Yeah. Ford's an American brand, so
I don't know if you're right.
Probably be all over that.
I don't know. I don't think so. I'd be very surprised.
I don't think it'll be. I think it'll be quite early compared to the other things, and compared to the V8 supercar as well, which that Gen 3 supercar, I have a feeling is a fair way off. I don't think it's coming as soon as perhaps some of us would really, really like, unfortunately, which is a shame, because it was great revitalization of the genre in terms of Australian cars, and particularly with the car going over for American wind tunnel testing, which is, it's just a big shame. I really would have liked to have seen supercars throw a boatload of money on it, just make it work.
Talking about supercars, right? We've got a couple of drivers in here tonight that must be over 40, because they're joining another league that I drive in, and it's only old farts, right? So Nick Wood, our championship leader, is going to have a crack in the supercar in the old farts league, and I'm really looking forward to seeing where he lands in terms of the splits. And so is Matty Scholes, is the other name that stands out. There's two prominent drivers from the Premier Endurance Racing League here in GT3s that have been exceptional drivers, and we've called their names out heaps during the time. So so I'll be banging doors with them hopefully in a few weeks' time.
Where did you finish, by the way, Pete? What was the end result for you in that one? In split 3?
In the championship?
Yeah.
Oh, mate, I was peak 35 because I missed 4 rounds.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah. But you've got a couple of podiums along the way, which is the best I've seen you do in a fair while. I was really, really banging on your door and going, Pete will be in there somewhere, he'll be in there somewhere. And you were for a little bit. Anyway, Scalzi has actually participated in V8 Vets before. Didn't run the full season, but he was about 18th to 23rd, 24th. I think his best rounds he snuck into the top 10 in top split. So that's where Skulls will pop out. And if Nick Woods can match that, although I don't know how much V8 supercar driving Woods does, whereas that Skulls is sort of preferred car, that's his preferred genre. So.
Yeah, and it's not easy to go between a GT3 and a supercar. So I'll be keeping an eye on those guys, and hopefully we can sort of give them a little bit of a talking when we get back to Premier Endurance Racing for season 2024, and we can let you know how some of the guys have gone in the mid-season between the races. So that'll be awesome.
can I just point out, Pete, you commentary cursed Fozzie a while back. Nothing's happened. But I say one word about a driver and he goes around instantly. So
I'd also like to say to you
but
on that
JP
one.
commentary cursed me, mate.
No, in hindsight, Pete, I commentary cursed the whole Porsche field. Anyone in a Porsche, it was who was going to go round first. There wasn't a specific driver like you did. It was literally anybody driving a Porsche who was going to go round first. And well, unfortunately, I come out on top. But I think at the end of the day, it is what it is with some of this racing. We've died down a bit at the front. There's gaps appearing with Maya, Magri, Coleman and Jeffrey. Now it's all about Keane, and Keane is literally making that Ford already wider than what it is at this moment in time. Jepson just can't get through, and there's only two ways this is going to go. Jepson's either going to make the move cleanly, or there's going to be contact. There ain't going to be an in the middle. It's going to be that simple.
Have a look a little bit further back, because Nick Wood was off the back end of this pack, and we already talked that he was quick and he was catching these guys. Jepson, by the way, has set the fastest lap of the race with a 1:59.332. So don't count Jepson out. He's got pace. And I think that 59.332 for Jepson was actually only recently as well. So that was right at the end of the previous stint, 59.3. Since he's come out after the pit stops, 201s or so. But yeah, so it looks that Wood's got that Ford really working on the low fuel runs at the moment, but he just sort of seems to have supreme pace. Right now, he's trapped in behind 4 cars in a row. Let's keep an eye on whether or not he's got the straight line speed of this one. Keane's pulling away a little bit in a straight line, and I think that's the key factor for Jepson, is he just cannot get close where the overtaking opportunities are, and now it's going to be parking it down the inside, and indeed down the inside from Nick Wood as well. So Keane's going to cover off the inside. Wood's going to try and find the exit and see if he can get by this Porsche of Adrian Gresh on the run down to turn number 1. Gresh is covering, which means he's going to get no draft, and now it becomes a couple more cars that buy onto the tail end of this chain, and Jesse McMenamin's brought into the argument as well. And Dawson's gone with him, and now here comes Nick Wood. He's going to try and go around the outside of Gresh down to turn number 1. It's deep, picks up the curbing, and Gresh lives another day.
And what we're really seeing, this is the awesome part about this, what we're really seeing is we're seeing the Ford, which is great in a straight line, but not too good in the corners, versus a Porsche, and I think that's a Ferrari, that are not necessarily as good in the straight line, but awesome in the corners. This is a classic battle of marks and cars.
Have a look at the different lines that they take through the S's. If there is ever anything that says the different characteristics of a car, it's where the drivers place them through the S's and what they can do inside the dirty air. I get the feeling that there is going to be a hurry-up given to Matt Keane at the front end. He's covering just about everywhere. And now this battle pack behind him has become about 6. As he is the cork in the bottle. And he might be the cork in the bottle that's holding the champagne at the end of it as we currently stand as well. Because at the moment, this is an all-important battle for 5th place, but could it be for more?
So where's the spot to overtake though, Scotty? If the Ford's so quick in the straight line, down the main straight and you're going through 130R into that last chicane, it's going to be quick. Is the only spot for them to overtake the hairpin on this track?
Oh, hang on, because Gresh has just gone wide at Spoon. Ran out and over the curbs. I thought for a moment he might lose the rear end of that Porsche, but it's grounded once again. Now they get the run back down to 130R. It might be the chicane. I think you've got to pull it somewhere. You've just got to trick him. It might be the hairpin of all places. As they run down to 130R one more time. And again, you can just see that Ford is getting its legs up. And then runs out of straight, unfortunately. And for Wood, doesn't go down the inside this time. Although Keane is still covering that inside. And for now, Adam Jepson is getting more and more fiery underneath that helmet. And I tell you what, there's probably a little bit of red mist sprayed in that visor.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't...
Absolutely. They hold their positions really well. Sorry, JP, all yours, mate.
I think this is the problem with this situation from Jepson. He's going to be getting frustrated. Keane is blocking him off at every opportunity he can. He is blocking the entrance. He's blocking the exit. He's parking it on the hairpin. He's parking it in Degnan 1 and 2. He's doing everything he needs to do in that car. And I think for him, it's going to be very difficult now for Jepson to try and decide what he's going to do. Do you come in and think, right, I pitted on lap 23, I'm now on 31. Can I make it to the end? can I dive it into the pits and get out of this scenario? Because he is getting held up. And does he go into the pits, make the pit stop, come back out, and then he's all quick on the clear track? Because at the moment, he ain't making progress. The only ones that are making progress are the people behind him. Greg, Wood, Dawson, and even McMinimum's coming into it. So this fight could be a 6-car fight. But Jepson at the moment, he's got to make a decision.
So he can't necessarily do that yet because there's about 5 more minutes of race time before they get to that, what I call is the critical time for the last pit stop. So Adam Jepson needs to have at least that 5 minutes of patience. So it's probably 2 or 3 more laps. And then if he feels he's faster, then jump straight in, all right, and undercut him over time. So he's just got to get to that sort of 5 more minute mark, so that's 42 minutes left to go in the race. And then, then we're going to see pit stop strategies come to the fore.
Well, there's just been a change for position for Pizzo because Owen Coleman's just got by Richard Mayer. Now, that is a Richard Mayer who is fuel saving. Ben Jeffrey is about 2 seconds back behind these guys right now.
I'm sorry to say,
this is getting spicy.
Yeah, Mayer did this. That's the only reason he got caught up by Coleman.
There we go. That'll explain it.
Yeah, so Mayer went off. Coleman wasn't closing him in. Unfortunately, Mayer made the mistake.
Floor's all yours to say that one line, JP.
I have nothing to say.
Famous line about Porsches?
I don't really need to. I don't really need to because I'm going to see a picture of Pete on the Union Jack flag soon, so I don't feel I really need to on that one.
So the new comment will be Porsche sending Pete to the Bundaberg Rum Factory, right? That's the new comment whenever a Porsche does Porsche things. If JP will do it, some random broadcast will be, the Porsche is sending Pete to the Bundaberg Rum Factory, and nobody will have any clue what they mean because everybody will be listening in Europe or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, something's just happened, I believe, to one of our Porsches because we've just lost the Porsche out of that battle pack we were looking at a few moments ago. That was Grosch?
He pitted, mate. He has gone in. He's gone in for the pits, and I actually think it's a lap or two early. But Adrian Gretsch has actually pulled out of this battle. He's gone in to do that pit stop, and I suspect he's gone in to do a pit stop and go. All right, I'm going to get out of this, but I'm going to see if I can save a little bit of fuel, maybe get a safety car, and then run to the end and get the undercut. So I think a risk 1 or 2 laps early, but time will tell.
In the meantime, that allows Nick Wood to close in on the rear bumper now of Adam Jepson. It's been Jepson who's been applying the torch to the rear bumper, and albeit 3 cars that look relatively similar. One manufactured in America, one manufactured in Italy. And it's a race car that has won the Nürburgring 24 Hours, that Ferrari 296. It's a race car that is starting to become renowned the world over. Indeed, there's already one ordered for a Thailand Super Series for next year. So I'll be getting to commentate on that next year in the real world. But now it's side by side as they get through the chicane and out the other side. There was a little bit of rubbing there between Adam Jepson, but finally the door opened itself. He went to the outside of the chicane. They'll bang wheels on the front straight away. Keane thought he was further to the left-hand side. Now will be 3 wide on the run down to turn number 1. This could decide it. Wood to the outside. Gets the nose ahead. And Nick Wood's been helped around in turn 1. They'll straighten him back out. They'll all survive out the other side. But now there's a little bit of rubbing and banging between Jepson and Matt Keane some more. Now Keane is back at the head of this thing, and that's exactly what he was looking for.
Oh, dearie me. The 3 wide turn 1. Ford sandwich with a Ferrari in the middle, and it was the problem for Jepson is he knew desperately he had to make that. He knew desperately he was giving his, as Eminem said, one shot, one opportunity. Was he going to take it? He had to try. I don't know if he was expecting Wood to come alongside him though, because Wood got an absolute barnstorming run coming out of Casio there and did a great job. But for Jepson, that was desperation. That was I need to go, and he didn't. Now he's got to make a decision. Do I need to go with this anymore, or do I need to get out and go into the pits? Because Wood's still coming, Dawson's still coming as well. It ain't over there for Jepson, but that was a desperation move there, Scotty, and what he had to make. Too.
And just trying to catch who it is. It's John O'Kiley again, unfortunately.
Yeah, and it's coming up the pit stop sign, but see, Adam Jepson, had a little bit of netco contact with Matty Keane out of that last corner onto that straight, which slowed both of the cars down. That's what brought Nick Wood up into it for that challenge. But unfortunately, Nick was stuck on the outside, and all he could do was sort of run a little bit off track and then just slot back in.
Well, the Wolves try and settle it down now as again Jeps has gone to the outside. Is he a fraction deep into the chicane? They all get out the other side. Is it going to kick off yet again? And he's looking for the draft, and now here comes Nick Wood again, who's got a huge run off the chicane. There are 3 wide. Are they going to be 3 wide? You bet your life they are on the run down to the front straight away. This time, though, Nick Wood goes from being on the outside of a 3-way battle to the inside, and Jepson's going to carry it on around the outside. And now, down into turn number 1, job is still not done here. He gets it out the other side, and for Nick Wood, he finally gets the job done, JP, and all of a sudden, the 38 car looks a lot more walking wounded with Nick Wood behind him.
Oh, it definitely does. I think Keeney's going to let
it's already over and done with.
Yeah, Keeney made a mistake. He made a mistake. He tried to get on the power far too early, and that Ford did glitch around. Unfortunately for Keane, he's now going to put Jepson on the inside as they come up through Dunlop here as well. Now Keane's got to hold it. He's got to settle down now, because whatever he's done with that Ford, he's cooked it over the last half a lap. Contact going into Degner 1, dipping it into the Degner 2, and now Jepson's tucked up behind him. Keane's going to go on the defense. He's going to hug that right-hand line, move over at the last minute, leave that, give him something to think about. He parks it in the middle of the circuit. He did it that time coming up through the hairpin. Now he's got to try and get that Ford settled back down again and do what he did. He's got the gap again. He can't go and open up that Ford as early as what he tried on that last lap, because he lost a lot of time. Get back on it. You held Wood, you held Jepson, and you held Dawson long enough. There's nothing saying you can't do it again, but he's got to drive that Ford right there, Scotty, otherwise he's going to be in trouble.
Oh, one of the key factors is just Jepson's now just gone, I've got to send it everywhere.
Yeah.
Because we saw what worked for Nick Wood straight away. It was get underneath him in a section. I think he's got to have a go. Exactly the same spot that Nick Wood had a go. It was actually set yourself up through that first sector and have a go through the S's. Well, he's right there. He's underneath that rear wing. He's deep into the chicane. And for Jepson, he's finally got it up far enough. And now Keane might lose 2 spots because Dawson's alongside. Dawson gets the nose head. Dawson gets a wiggle on. Keane to the lane.
Yeah.
My word, what an enthralling 5 minutes. And here comes the pit lane strategy to buy in at JP.
Yeah, he had nothing. Keane had nothing as a response there. He couldn't even try and defend anything on that one. He had to go into the pits and get that done. That was the most vital thing for Keane. He's now got to get in, get out, and come back and see how far up he can go. But he's got to try and clear Dawson, Jepson and Wood. That's going to be the most important thing. If he can do that, great. But I think he's going to try and struggle to clear Wood here. He held up Jepson enough. He might have given himself an opportunity, but he was very slow going into the pits. He wasn't decisive going down into Casio. We saw Jepson come alongside him. He wasn't decisive enough, and I think that's where, if he's going to lose these laps out, Sky, he's going to do it on that one alone, because he lost 2-3 attempts just trying to get into the pit lane, and that's the danger of doing what he did there. So we'll see how he comes out. I think it's going to be tough once these guys are pitted.
Oh my word, Ronald Long, by the way, is on his he's on his side down at the exit of turn 1 and turn 2. And that is another car that is just about done for the day. And this will be the story for Ronald Long on the run down to turn number 1. I'm going to assume that this is a Porsche probably clambering over a curb.
Oh,
yep.
no, that was...
Swapped ends and gripped up.
Yes. And unfortunately for Ronald Long, he's possibly done the same thing for the last 34 laps there, but the Porsche decided enough's enough. So, more importantly for Latella, he has got Dean Hunt settling in here as well. Hunt is literally 3 places back. It might be a good time to get an update of kind of where we're at on the scores, if we can, with our man on the doors, Mr. Baxter, and ask him how we're getting on here with the scores. Pete, where are we at in conjunction with Latella and Hunt?
Oh, I think Alfonso's still got Dean Hunt covered. Remember, Dean Hunt needs to be 7 places in front of Alfonso, and that's only if he wins, so it needs to be a bigger gap if he's further down the order. So Alfonso, I think, well and truly has Dean covered. He doesn't need to beat him, he just needs to finish around about the same spot. And in terms of the championship, I think Nick Wood's got everybody covered too. I think Owen's got Ben covered for second, so I think we're fairly well settled, unless something really dramatic happens. And the only thing I can see really dramatic that might change it is if Owen Coleman has an absolute shocker and gets a DNF, which might give Ben Jeffrey a chance to jump into second in the championship.
Talk to us a little bit now about the pit lane strategy, because up until now, the pit lane transit times end to end have been about 50 seconds or so, just under a fraction under 50 seconds. And for my mind, I've currently got Daniel Magri at 36.7 seconds back from the lead. Do we think that Owen Coleman has got to have less than 36 seconds or right on or about? I reckon he's probably got 40 seconds, but we're tight with that number.
Well, I don't know off the top of my head what the fuel drop is intuitively, but it's certainly going to be close, because if you remember, Owen Coleman came in at about the 57-minute mark, which means essentially he's got a half tank less to take. The tanks fill up over about sort of 50 seconds, so it's a 25-second difference. So I think we're plus or minus 5 seconds there. I think it's probably in the favour of Owen at the moment, given that he did go so long. But I think the downside for Owen is he might have been expecting another safety car to make the most of that advantage. But if he's got clean track now, as we've seen, and Nick Wood's now got clean track, getting through that fight, those guys can really now push on with that clean track and make the most of their speed, and therefore the shorter second pit stop they'll take more advantage of.
All right, so just done some quick math based upon a 3 litre per second fill time is about 21 seconds. That's for the Porsche. The other cars will take a fraction more than that. We're probably talking half a second. And that's from bone dry to full. So it's in and around that sort of a marker. And the other factor to take into this one is, well, do they want tyres? Do they want left sides around here? Might be worth a gamble to take half the car with the tyres. It'll be a big, big gamble. For the moment, though, Dean Hunt is starting to make ground on Hugo Sutherland and Cam Edwards ahead of him. Alfonso Latella just got the job done a couple laps ago on Cam Edwards and moves himself up to 6th place overall. But we are now in an unofficial, if you will, we're in a pit cycle affected leaderboard at the moment, ladies and gentlemen. JP, I get the feeling Daniel Magri is going to be a lot further up at the pointy end of this one when this resolves itself.
I do completely agree with you. Lap at 32, he pitted 5 laps ago. We've got to give it at least 10, 15 minutes for everybody to cycle out. There's people, as we know, a little bit wonky. There's people where they shouldn't be. There's people a little bit all over the place. So let's see how this one goes. What's going to happen with Provenzali and Trent Allen as they're coming into Spoon. Here, Allen in the defense in that Ferrari. Provenzali in the BMW. He's trying to get through as well. It's going to be a very interesting, Scotty. I think by the time we get through the next 10 minutes, get all of these cycles out the way, then we'll know really where we're going to stand with this and who the straight sprint between the end of the race and the beginning of the race will be. It looks like Martin Howland's had a bit of a moment there as well, and unfortunately it looks like Jimmy Middleton may have also been involved in some form of incident as he's been off the side of the circuit. Hanlon coming into the hairpin there. Is he just going to... Oh, he just chugs excessively slowly around the hairpin, and I'm wondering if Jimmy may have done the same thing, or...
That's a slowdown penalty.
Yeah, was Jimmy off at Degner? Yeah, he had already hit the entrance into Degner 1, and that's just going to bounce him up all day, and unfortunately there is nothing but a barrier waiting for Jimmy Middleton there as well. Another thing they've got to be careful of is taking them curves, Scotty, and as you know, with any curves going into a tricky corner like the Degners in general, you've got to be careful. So, you know, no surprise that something happened to somebody, but if I'm not mistaken, I believe that might actually be the first person within the Degners that that's possibly happened to.
Yeah, it's actually been relatively clean. There was a forward off there, which I think was Darren Burgess, which was after contact with the 711, which was Brent Tucker early in the race. But that, other than that, it's been relatively clean. The tricky thing around this track is, and I've actually done this in this Merc, actually, around here myself in the Suzuka 10 hour, is that once you've got a little bit of suspension damage, that the first Degner, that curb on the right-hand side of it, that can continuously bend the steering arm over the course of a stint. So, and effectively adjust your camber as things go on. It's an aggressive bit of curb, that one, on the right-hand side. If you take too much of it, there is a slowdown penalty waiting. There's also a slowdown penalty on the eggs of the Degners as well. So all around, it's just for 2 hours. This is one of those tricky circuits where you can get yourself offline. A little bit of fatigue creeps in. You're just not hitting your markers consistently. It's a track that on the surface level looks very, very easy to drive. And it is. It's very, very easy to drive. But to hit it consistently, there's no wall. There's no wall to punish you. So you're not fearful for your life when you're driving around here like you are at Bathurst, like you are at street circuits. So it just sort of nabs at you when there's so many elements of this circuit that can bring you undone.
Yeah, I think that's one of the good things about Suzuka is the different type of corners, the different situations that you can get yourself involved in. You know, that fast right-hander at turn one, you send it in there, you carry as much speed for that exit, you try and get on the brakes mid-corner, slow it down, there you go, look, for Provisani, send it in, start getting on the brakes, you're bringing that front end round, get onto the brakes of the GT3, and away you go. And now you're going to sneak up here as well through what is technically called the snake of all things, and you're going to try and get it up through the S's again. There's so many aspects to this, and Dunlop could cause you a big problem if you hit the outside curb as well. And I'm surprised we haven't seen more on that one, but they are managing Dunlop quite well. But there has been a lot of other, you know, areas on the track that can cause problems. And I think, as we both consider and admit, Scotty, that that's what makes Suzuka as good as what Suzuka is here.
Yeah, it is, and it's curbs everywhere, aggressive curves, place the car differently, different line. It's one of the few tracks whereby everyone's got a different way to drive through that first sector. There's nothing else like it. Maybe a Rudskogen.
Oh.
Other than that, it's pretty much the best way through. At most tracks is the best way through. So,
yeah, I think.
And as we settle, go ahead, mate.
I think certain circuits, you know, have their own characteristics. You know, Rudskogen is for me, it's a Marmite Vegemite sandwich circuit. Nobody, hardly anybody I know really likes it. Oschersleben is another one that we've got, and nobody really cares much for that either. Oh. But Suzuka is a circuit that people love. And they love driving it. The fast 130, spoon, the hairpin, you've got all of it. You know, whoever designed the track and has got best bits from every track, locked them all together and has come up with this amazing circuit. And I think now this is what we can sit back and enjoy, the racing here. And we've still got racing going on. Stefan Lawrence is trying to get in front of Sean Benici a little bit further down. This is for 27th, 26th and 27th respectively. So these guys are still trying to battle away. So it's a great job from all of them as there's still continual fights throughout the field.
Yeah, and unfortunately for Stefan Lawrence, it'll be a lot further down than he would have liked. At fire-off point tonight, I think he struggled. In fact, I actually don't see that he set a qualifying time, and that's Suzuka. Very difficult to get the overtaking done. Unfortunately for him, he's had to come through the field. It was the incident earlier on, and unfortunately for Stefan Lawrence, he continues to chomp away at the tail end of the field. Leith McClimate's had a race of, there's been pace there, but he'll walk away and say, man, I should have done better. Incidents he should have been involved in as well. I'm really interested. Alex K's come out, which is 23rd. And unfortunately, after that incident, both of those guys had on the entry to pit lane. That is racing, unfortunately. But for Stefan Lawrence at the moment, this might be an opportunity to get down the inside, and hasn't presented itself. So drive off the exit now key for Lawrence, and he has got a reasonable drive, although it's going to be having to go from a long way back. Porsche not quick in a straight line. And here comes Stefan Lawrence, and I get the feeling this might be done when they get down into turn one. Pulls out the draft as late as he possibly can, tries to keep that turn opened up. They'll go wheel to wheel, and Benici just bears way for Stefan Lawrence. Job done there, JP. And this race is quickly entering its final stanza.
Yeah, this is it now. We're coming into the last hurrah, the last flurry, the last, here is Ben Jeffrey. What is he going to be able to do? Where is Nick Wood Jepson as well? I'm interested to find out when Jepson goes in, when Dawson goes in, and when Wood goes in, because we really will then be able to tell you where Matty Keane's going to be involved, if he's going to be involved. It looks like at the moment, though, Matty Keane is not here. As I search frantically for where...
No, the name to look out for, mate, is Daniel Magri. So Daniel Magri has just taken the effective lead of the race for those who've pitted to the end. He's just gone past Ben Jeffrey and Dean Hunt, who are in for their second pit stop. All the others without 2 pit stops is Jesse McManaman and South from T14. But Daniel Magri with fuel to the end is where we called him out earlier with an early pit stop. He's made a bit of a jump. So it'll be good to see where Owen and Nick Wood come out with respect to Daniel. I'll keep an eye on that as the race goes on.
And I reckon, actually, we've just lost Matt Keane from the race 7, by the way, so something's happened to either his computer or his internet connection, unfortunately. So for a driver that was deep in the field in terms of things and was running quite well in that Ford, hardware issues of some description are going to bring the driver of the 38 machine unstuck. And for now, for Daniel Magri, the next car on track is Trent Allen. And he is actually starting to take a little bit of time out of Trent Allen as well. So he will be hoping pit lane cycles to completion a little bit sooner than he gets to the rear bumper of Trent Allen. Ricky Provenzali as well, a mile up this field, was driven inside the top 10 from the rear of the field as well. And there's another car on the outside of Spoon Curve, and it's Matty Gerard in that Ford as well. So every single Ford in the field has now had issues sometime tonight. Yeah,
it looks like Gerard's in. Burgess is in the pits. He's been in the pits for 14 minutes. So from Darren Burgess's point of view, he's still sat there, yeah. So I think it's, we don't want to curse this gentleman who's just taken the lead of the race, but hasn't been a good night for Ford so far.
So Coleman and Jepson have just hit the pits, as well as Alfonso Latella. Dan Magri is on the main straight, and he'll get around them while they're in the pits. So Dan Magri is the guy who's going to be out in front.
Oh, it is very, very tight. It is incredibly tight. Dan Magri goes through to the effective race lead, and it will be the effective race lead, and it's going to be 2 seconds in it, boys. That car in the background is Owen Coleman. And I said it before, I think Dan Magri has got this bull by the horns. He may have some fuel to save, but I think he's okay. I think he's good.
Yeah, 27 minutes he should be.
Well, he last pitted on lap 32, which was 9 laps after all of the other leaders pitted. They all pitted on lap 23. So Dan did his last pit stop. He did it quite early, and I think he did it right around about that sort of 45-minute mark. I do think he's got fuel to save, so whether that cost him lap time or not, that's, time will tell in that. How close to the bone he's going to really grind it. But look, he's put himself in the position for a really good finish with the strategy that he's executed so far tonight.
Well, for Dan, he's now going to drive the wheels off this thing and hope and pray that he's got the pace that he needs and that fuel does not become a bigger question mark, because for right now he's got control. For Nick Wood, how deep does he go into this race before he finally comes to pit lane for his final stop? There is 26 minutes. We are under 26 minutes to go in the season, and time is rapidly running out for our guys. I think Nick Wood is going to be in the lane this time by, which is going to leave only a couple cars out. It'll be I believe Latella is still circulating at the moment. Latella's come to the lane. So I think it's going to be Alan Dawson's going to continue on. Ricky Provenzali and Trent Allen, I think, are the 3 at the moment. And Alan's in as well. So it's just going to be Ricky Provenzali and Alan Dawson. And Pete, if you can hit me quickly with how we say that last name of our driver in P2.
Ricky Provenzali.
He's been waiting all season to say that one, JP.
I think he has, mate, to be fair. He's well practiced, isn't he? Let's be honest about it. You know, you can imagine Pete in an Italian restaurant, can't you? Waving around frantically, talking with his hands everywhere. Just saying, Pete. I love you, really.
Well, me? No, it's Ricky that's waving his hands around. Mate, I had to wait all season because, he's done a great job and put all this season on for. He's done all that work. but he's been yelling at me all season. So, Ricky Provenzali, give me a chance to talk you up and get into the top 3. But he's actually had a really struggling season. The guys that he brought in this season are not faster than I think he thought. So, in the first season, Ricky came from the end and finished P1, 2 and 3 most races. This time, he's fighting to get into the top 10, so to see him up there is really good to actually see him there. But he's still got another pit stop, and so does Alan Dawson out the front. So where they are now, I think they're still going to be around about the sort of P10, P12 mark.
And in the meantime, that battle between our 2 effective race leaders, this current lap is going to be the difference maker, and Coleman is starting to take chunks of time out of Dan Magri. He's taken, to this point in the lap, 0.6 of a second out of him. And there is 24 minutes or so left on the clock. So time currently not in Daniel Magri's favour. He has either got to find pace or he's got to find a way to hold off Owen Coleman. And with Coleman coming at that rate of knots, we could end up with ourselves with a battle for the lead on track. Might resolve itself in the final 15 minutes here. Yeah,
Dawson's got in as well. So from Provenzali, he's gone in to the pits, so that that will be allowing Magri to go through. There is Coleman in the background. Looks like Trent Allen's had a little bit of a moment further down. Jeffrey's there as well. You know, and that's the thing at the moment. It's been very, very fuel strategy dependent, this is. And now we're starting to see how it's going to pay out, isn't it?
I don't think Magri can make it to the end. I think he's going to be about 5 laps short. Even with fuel staving, I can't work out in my numbers a way how Dan's going to make it to the end. So I think he's still got a splash and dash to go.
And unfortunately, for those of you watching along at home and keeping in touch with our Challenger class, Dean Hunt unfortunately has just made contact with the rear bumper of Trent Allen, which has ended Trent Allen's race. And that may have a penalty to serve, which means Latella has basically got this one wrapped up. His pit strategy cycled himself out in a reasonable spot as well. He's up the road from Dean Hunt.
Oh, man.
So for Dean, who came in with hopes. Yeah. He apologised on the radio straight away to Dean, to his credit.
I think, you know, there's so many eager beavers. I think the beaver has got to slow down before it starts chewing the wood. You know what I mean? You've got to take it a little bit easy here as well. There's, you know, yes, you've got 20 minutes, but you've still got a 2-minute lap. And I think for Alan, he's obviously, that's it. I think he's going to be practically done here. So let's see how it works out. But for Dean Hunt, we'll see what goes on with him as Nick Wood is closing, trying to close down on Ben Jeffries, but it's got about 16 seconds. I can't really see that happening before the end here, Scotty, but he has got Dawson and Jepson right behind him with Richard Meyer 3 seconds back. So maybe Jepson and Dawson might get into Nick Wood. This is probably where the Ford, Matty Keane is in the battle, but he is back here, and I think he might be a lap down though, unfortunately.
Well, yeah, he is. But right now, we're going to actually have an overtake for our race lead. To the inside, Owen Coleman into turn number 1 and gets the job done. So for Dan Magri, whilst the fuel strategy has worked in his favour and he's found himself towards the front end of town, Owen Coleman had the pace in hand, and I think you might be right, Pete. I get the feeling that this one is going to be a fuel save run to the end of the race. And Ben Jeffrey now only 2 seconds behind these guys as well. So he's coming at a rate of knots at the tail end of this one, and after that's Nick Wood and that Ford.
What do you mean you think I might be right?
Because you weren't right about the car at the beginning, Pete. So, you know, we've got to question it.
No, that's you on the Porsche. But remember, I do crew chiefing for Scotty. So, you know, if I'm his crew chief and I'm his, you know, looking and getting to the front of the race. If he says to me, I think you might be right, I'm like, I might as well just turn the computer off and go home.
He does do a lot better with the numbers than I do. I will give him that.
Well, let's see if he gets it spot on. because I'd hate for him to lose two things this evening. Welcome in, Cher, as well. So how is the Mad Englishman tonight, apparently? So I'm not in a bad mood. I've won a bet, so I'm all gravy. So there we go. But some, interesting things happening. Hey, you've only got to speak the truth.
Oh, Scotty, you missed last round, and Scotty, you missed last round, and JP, he was literally the Mad Englishman. He went for like 3 to 4 laps without taking a breath, and it was exciting racing. And even I'm like, oh mate, you're going to blow a valve here. Just slow down. Yeah, and our Cher pops on the YouTube and says, oh, he sounds like a Mad Englishman. Oh, yeah, that's it. That's a new nickname.
Yeah. JP and I share oxygen tanks at the end of a broadcast. That's the way this sort of stuff works. In terms of things, Cher, by the way, we're actually sharing stories. Rue was actually sharing stories about how she's just this crazy woman. Absolutely crazy in terms of sports bike. And the crazy woman invited me to go over for laps at what is now Wanneroo Raceway. And I was like, oh, I've heard of Wanneroo before. I wonder what track that is. It's Barbagallo. Barbagallo is the name that's stuck in the back of my head, and I'll never be able to get rid of it. I love that track. Could you imagine racing a sports bike up and over the crest coming down to the final corner at Barbagallo? Yeah, Cher does that for fun.
Ooh, well, I'll tell you what, Stefan Lawrence nearly did that for fun there as well. He was blinking in and out, and then he lost the back end of that BMW. Did well, McClymont, to not actually make contact with him. So that was a good job there. Brian Tucker's locked it up. Here we've got 2 Porsches going at it with him and Simon Honey. It looks like Matty Keen's had a bit of a moment again in that Ford here as he's coming down into Casio. He's bounced the curb on the way in, doesn't touch it on the way out, but not really quite sure what that was. That was a very strange maneuver there from Matty Keane as he went over the curbs going out of the Casio Triangle. So yeah, some little bit of action still slightly developing down in the Challenger class here as well. Matt Norris, Brandon McLaughlin and Cam Edwards, they're fighting it out. As you can see, Greg is also trying to come back through the field here as well, going down into turn 1. So there's still a little bit of battles here, Scotty, but not much really developing at the front.
As is generally the case in endurance racing, it's probably 4th, 5th, 6th. It's probably the best of the lot of them, which is Nick Wood, Alan Dawson and Adam Jepson. Got to say it in a reasonable order, lads. And I'm really impressed actually by Adam Jepson to set that fastest lap of the race. That's obviously conditions are going to be right. I think he got handed probably the best tow of anyone to set that at the tail end of a stint. And it's ended up popping out the right way, but for him, great night at the office. You'll take that.
Anybody who has survived this 2 hours at Suzuka will probably take it as well, because it was more important for most of the people to try and make sure they got to the end, and they did get to the end. Well, unfortunately for that's Gretsch going through on Norris. So Norris is now behind Gretsch, but then again, that's a Pro-Am or Challenger or Elite fight that he probably didn't really need to get involved with. Is he going to do the same for Brandon O'Loughlin? Well, that's a different story, as they're both in the same class. But, as we said, all the people the likes of Dean Hunt and Boz are still going at it here as well. Hunt is not in that position to take Latella in the championship, and Hunt unfortunately will probably finish in 2nd place with 16 minutes remaining. So it's starting to sort of, dimmer down just a little bit.
Yeah, it is indeed, as they tend to go. And 15 minutes on the clock to the run to the end of the season. It started off in drama all the way back at Catalunya. Safety cars bred safety cars from that race, and for a field the size that it has been, Catalunya, you'd think they might be able to get through, but it does have its tricky corners. The season worked its way through. From there, we stepped forward and went to Monza, and the GT4 category was a banger in terms of a fuel-saving race. The GT3s, it wasn't all that bad either. Road Atlanta was dangerous. It was tricky. We went to Hockenheimring for round number 4, and here they are at round 5 in Japan. It's been a world tour. We've had 1 round in Spain, 1 round in Italy, 1 round in America, 1 in Germany, and then we've made it to the Pacific as well. In Japan to feed things. It's been a little bit of a world tour. It's been a celebration of great racetracks the world over. Of those 5 tracks, Peter Baxter, we'll start with you. Got a favourite of the 5 that have been on offer this season?
I'm gonna no. You guys keep talking. I've got some news pending coming up. Just on some.
Ooh, okay. Okay, math still has to be done in the background, and for you, JP, hard to go past Road Atlanta, isn't it?
Yeah. I'm struggling to see what else would really come close to that. I don't think Hockenheim or Monza or Barcelona. I think, Suzuka, you might be able to get a sniff. But I think Road Atlanta, the racing we had, the quality that we had here as well, I think that's probably going to be the one for me. As O'Loughlin and Norris still going at it here side by side at this moment as we go into the last 14. It's going to be tough for past Road Atlanta, but partly because, we know Road Atlanta, Scotty. We were there, we've been there millions of times, hundreds of times, shall I say, probably not millions because we're not that old, but hundreds of times through things like Petit Le Mans and everything else that we've watched there as well. There seems to be a rush of Road Atlanta, and it is just a great circuit. It technically, probably on the scale of 10 being the most difficult, like Nords, to 1 maybe being, I don't know, just put it out there, Scotty, don't have a go at me, but like Dega for an oval where it's just full flat. Road Atlanta probably sits somewhere round about that middle mark. It's not quite technical like Nords. It's not as fast as, obviously, an oval. It's somewhere in the middle. That turn 2 and 3 going up the hill are probably a difficult space to get through as well. Running off down the 4, and of course we know the curb coming on the outside of 5 can shoot you into the left-hand side, kind of like this circuit can. But I think for me, my favourite this season has got to be Road Atlanta.
All right, boys, can I jump in? I've got some really important news for you. So, we've been talking about Alfonso and Dean Hunt for the Challenger class also all night. What I've been referring to, I was referring to the overall GT3 points. And in those points, it actually has Alfonso a hell of a way in front of Dean Hunt. But when I've gone now to the Challenger points class and I had a look, Dean Hunt actually has led Alfonso into the race. And on the current positions that they are now, Dean Hunt has the championship in the Challenger class by 1 point.
Oh. But he's got a 15-second post-race penalty coming his way.
That's going to drop him down below.
So right now where he stands with P12, he has a 1 point lead in the championship. So he needs to deal with that 15-second championship.
It's also going to be to another car in class, which is Fozzie, and Fozzie's right behind him. So all of a sudden, a sting in the tail of the toe-to-toe championship.
Yeah, I don't think Hunt. Well, if they're tied though, are they going to be tied coming into this? If obviously his 15 seconds drops in behind Mark Foster. Pete, can we get a reference on that?
They're not tied coming into it. They're not tied coming into it. The 15 seconds will drop him down to P. If it takes him to P13, it will drop him down.
It's going to drop him 1 spot, just 1 spot, because Nick Bottrell's 20 seconds back. And he's the next car on track.
Yeah.
So dropping down to 5th in class and 1 spot on track.
I'm seeing some rubbery figures, so it's hard to call, to be honest. Leave it with me.
I can actually say I did just hear a response. So Dean was let go by Fozzie, and Fozzie said, "Yeah, mate, I can't do anything about it. I'm fuel saving." So there's a question mark over Fozzie at the moment. If Fozzie has to pit, he'd have it by 1 point.
Yes, I think that's what was
Wouldn't that
confirmed.
be a sting in the tail of the championship?
But
yeah.
If Buzz is saving, is he going to really lose 15 seconds between now and 10 minutes? That's a big ask for somebody to lose that amount of time.
If he has to pit.
If he has to pit, then he may do.
If he cannot make it, yeah. But effectively, we've got 5 laps left to go, so you'd be looking at losing 3 seconds a lap. It's not going to happen from that perspective. The only saving grace for Dean will be if Mark Foster has to pit.
Wow.
Which is a shame for Fozzie. And to see him that far down in 13th when he was up in, what, 6th? 6th, 7th. which is the best we've seen out of him in ages. And I don't think it'd be a dry on the house for Fozzie if he was to win a race in the Challenger class.
No, I think, you know, Mark's done an amazing job. And I think as well that Dean Hunt, it's going to be really close, and it's going to be really tough for either Latella or Hunt. One of them is going to be upset, one of them's going to be ecstatic, and that's the situation that is motor racing. You know, there's always a winner, there's always a loser, and to be fair, this is probably one of the only few sports that, you know, there is a definitive loser and winner. You know, sometimes in basketball you get tied games and then you have to go into overtime. The same in football, you know, the same in American football, baseball, every other sport generally. Even tennis, when they're tied, they just keep going and going and going. You know, we don't have that here. It's you're the winner, you're the loser. If you're tied on points, who's won the most races? It's you win. You know, so it's a very definitive winning-losing situation. So for Hunt and Latella, if Hunt has got to drop behind Foz, and Foz is only 2 seconds back at the moment, and that was literally 2 minutes ago, Scotty, where I said, is he really going to lose 15 minutes? And he's only barely lost 4 tenths over 2 minutes.
Well, Richard Mare's just pit. Richard Mare's actually just come back into the pit lane, so Daniel Magri's lost a spot. Daniel Magri's just lost a spot to Ben Jeffrey as well. Richard Mare, who was one of those drivers that we had, was maybe going to have to come back in for that splash. He hasn't made it, and he hasn't made it by 8 minutes. But I thought Richard might have actually been the first car out of all those cars that took the stop at a safety car to actually pit. So, well, now Dean drops behind Richard as well in terms of the overall stats, but that's not for a class position, because that's Richard Mare feeds right in behind Foster.
I think we'll have to get Pete. Unfortunately, I don't think my maths is quite going to be good enough at this point of the morning here as well. I think Pete's going to have to be the stats man.
I don't even know if I'm going to be able to do it. There's some funky things in the point system here that the boys have been using I haven't quite got a table for. So I think I can't call it. I haven't worked it out. I'm going to stay on it and call the race to the end. I'll see if I can get it before the end.
Well, there we go. Pete's got a mission behind him, Scotty. Scott?
Yeah, so I think what Pete's referring to is that they do 2 points tables. They do an overall and they do a class points table, just to sort of have a bit of comparison, which is important as well, particularly when you've got drivers that you're not 100% sure where they should be moving up or when they should be moving down. So they use that as a post-season sort of review of, does a driver deserve to be, you know, perhaps in the higher class. And for Dean Hunt and Alfonso Latella, they're inside the top 10 in terms of overall point standings as well. So there would be a case there that both of those drivers might move up. The other one that might move up as well is Jesse McMenamin, who's in 17th out of 57, by the way. Actually, it's more than that. 61 drivers.
Magri's in.
Yeah,
Magri's gone in. He's just about to come out.
Oh, no.
Yeah, Magri had to go in. He's now sitting in 6th, just in front of Provençali. So Magri did have to go in the end and went in and come back out. Stop was literally nothing, and he is in and out, but he's now out in 6th place. But overall, though, but to be fair, Scotty, if you look at the gainers and the losers, you know, look at the gains between Magri and Provençali. That's 41 places between them. You know, you got 27 between Sutherland and Hunt. Then you throw Latella 6 in there, 19 for Lawrence. So that's a big gain for some of these people, you know, and they should be proud of what they've done. However, one man that probably isn't going to be too over the moon at the moment is Alex Kay, as he's coming into Casio here as well. Did he just go in far too hot? Bounces the curb. Lambo says no more. And unfortunately for Alex Kay, it's a little bit off the diver. Gerard's had another moment there as well. I won't show that one because poor old Matty Gerard will be able to have his own highlights reel, unfortunately. He's had a bit of a rough race here.
He's a lovely guy too, Matty Gerard.
Yeah, that's the thing, and I don't want to impound the fractures anymore, do you know what I mean? Because obviously he's had a bit of a rough one, but, you know, it's going to be interesting. Can Magri stay ahead of Provençali? Well, Provençali's there. He's trying to get onto the back of him. He's about half 10th back as we go into the last 4.5 minutes, which will probably give us about another 3 laps.
So boys, all I can tell you was Dean Hunt was, with drop rounds included, 36 points ahead of Latella coming into the race. So if he stays only at 2 positions behind him, I'm going to say my feel for what I can try and work out is I think Dean's got it, but there's a factor in the points, and I don't know whether it's an incident point factor or a penalty factor that gets applied post-round in the points that I can't see in the point structure. So this is close.
Yeah, it's exceptionally close at the top end of town at the moment. And unfortunately for Dean Hunt, that 15-second penalty may just put pay to what has been a real stab at the championship. And it is going to be tight when we pop out the other end of this one. Ben Jeffrey might have had actually a moment on that most recent lap as well. He's in and around lap traffic as it currently stands and has fallen fractionally further back from our lead. But after 2 hours worth of racing, when you say 5 seconds covers your front 2, you won't be too upset about that because there's nothing in that. Hang on, did Owen Coleman just had a huge moment? We're going to have a battle for the lead with 2 laps left to run because Owen Coleman just lost the rear end of that Mercedes, and have a look at that Ferrari. Not the car that's immediately in behind him, that's Brent Tucker, who is a lap down at this point in time, but the car behind that is now Ben Jeffrey, and there are going to be some scorched tyres on this Mercedes. Has he pushed the Merc too far? And JP, I'm hoping you've got a replay for me to tell the story.
I would love to be able to show you that replay, but I've got nothing coming up for young Owen Coleman here, and unless we kind of pick up something just before that incident. You can see the 2 cars in the background.
It was a curb at Spoon.
Yeah, we might have to see if we can find it there as well for Owen Coleman, but it's yeah, if he's had a moment out of Spoon, he's obviously got a little bit sideways and spun it up there, Scotty, and got a little bit loose. So I think we can probably safely say that he's recovered. He's out on track, but he has got now Jeffrey closing right behind him as we go into the last 2 minutes.
Yeah, and I think we're going to have 2 laps left to decide this one. And all of a sudden, Ben Jeffrey's looking racy. So who's got tyres at the back end of their stint? Have a look at the different line from the 2 drivers as well. And for Ben Jeffrey, this will be the first time in a while he might be suffering a little bit of dirty air. If he's going to get him, he'll have to get close at the tail end of this lap and just apply that pressure. The run to the start-finish line is short enough that if you lead out of the last corner and you've got reasonable drive, it is unlikely you'll get it done to the line. So he's got to apply pressure through 1 on this next time by. He gets close at the hairpin. There is starting to run out of time for Owen Coleman. He won't win the championship, but what does he have to say about the season? For Nick Wood, he's got it locked up. And provided that Ford doesn't find a way off the road in the next lap and a half, will be Season 2 champion. But for now, the championship's heading in a different direction because Skulls is not in a... Skulls was our Season 1 champion. And Owen Coleman, it's now a long run home on ailing tyres on a car that's just lost it. Do you start hearing things? Do you start feeling things? The second last time through 130R, and Ben Jeffrey's probably a fraction too far back. Now he'll close down. Coleman's quicker in a straight line. The final second to last time through the Casio triangle, not on the start-finish straight. Barry's going to have the white flag in hand, ladies and gents. There will be 1 more lap left in this season. And the run down to turn number 1, JP, I think he's too far back.
Yeah, I think he is. He's not going to make it this time for Jeffrey. He's got to try down through... up through 130R and down coming into Casio. That's probably going to be about it. Coleman now looks like he's got the bit between the teeth. Coming up through the S's now. Coming in through what will be Dunlop very, very shortly. Then going through the Degners. Coleman's going to have half a lap then to literally wrap this one up. He's got the hairpin. He's got to make it through. If he makes it through that hairpin, I think he might be all right if he can get out the other side without any issues.
And the run now to the Degners. The curb on the inside. 1 more mistake that potentially comes. The last time by, this is where he was closest. On the exit out here. A little wiggle from the 296 Ferrari. And time is running out. If he's going to get it done, it was probably the hairpin. He's now out of time at the hairpin. The final lap of season 2023 for Premier Endurance League. It's been a long one. It's been an arduous one. And we're running out of time. And Owen Coleman might finally get that win to crown the championship off. It won't be a win in the season, but it will be a win in the last race of the season. He's deep. He's deep in a spoon. He runs over the curb. All of a sudden, Ben Jeffries is right there. Has Ben Jeffrey got the horses that he needs to get off here? This is it. There's going to be 3 more corners left to run. One of them's 130R. You can't get alongside there. You'd be suicidal to do so. Does Coleman cover it? He's got to cover the inside when they get down here. For Ben Jeffrey, you have a crack. It's 11 seconds back to their nearest competitor. He's got to run. He covers it to the inside as Owen Coleman. To the outside now for Ben Jeffrey. Tries to switch back. Covers it nicely as Coleman. And it'll be the run out. It's too short, the run to the flag. Owen Coleman wins from Suzuka, from Ben Jeffrey, who's going to come home just in behind him. And job done for Owen Coleman, albeit there was a bit of a scare there to finish.
Yeah, there was. But did you notice what he did here as we go with Latella, who's got Hugo Sutherland there behind him a bit further back? Was that Provençali going all over Magri? Literally, Provençali was giving Magri, well, the hurry up almost there. And as you say, the run down to that line is very short here. Whether or not Provençali is going to be able to keep on the gas round the outside. There's the line in front. Is Provençali going to lose it to Magri? Oh, to Latella nearly, but Latella did manage to hold on there as well. So some great action going on right the way down to the line. But as you say, that run down to the line is very, very short here, and does make it quite tough for them to actually achieve anything like we have seen, which, for me, that's one of the other confusing bits about certain circuits, Scotty. You know, the start line's down here, but the finishing line's right up there, you know. Put them across the same place, make it a little bit easier for us.
And it's all being decided now, but for the last few drivers that'll make their way down through, we're looking deep in the field now at Adam Holland, who was inside the top 5 at one point. There was a little bit of a cheer in YouTube chat when that one was noticed as well. We'll run to the flags, finish in 19th spot. It's always about celebrating the end of the season, and for the guys in behind him with Braden O'Loughlin, who led one of the first rounds that we ever had out of this series at Imola, until later on the piece his Audi got away from him. And they continued to cross the line. Matt Norris will be the next one home as well, and I think Alex Kay will be the last driver on the lead lap, and then we're done.
We are. All finished, Scotty, and I think you can safely say it's been a fun season, hasn't it? You know, we've seen some great racing, we've seen some amazing overtakes, we've seen some spectacular incidents, we've seen an Englishman actually winning a bet, which is always good. So, yeah, there's been a lot going on.
Yeah, a bet that's not cricket related, because if that was the case, he'd never be winning. In terms of things, this is how they'd finished across the start-finish line at the end of the race by 0.4 of a second. It was Owen Coleman from Ben Jeffrey, and a stout race to the line. And in terms of things overall, Nick Wood will be somewhat displeased with third place in that Ford.
Yeah, I think he could have had a lot more there as well. Not quite sure where the standards have all of a sudden miraculously disappeared to. There you go. Try that one. As you know, he will be, but he probably did what he needed to do to get it done. That was a different situation there, Scotty.
Sorry, halfway missed that one, JP. I was just listening to the race controls actually going through and just celebrating with everyone at the moment. So the run down on screen was Coleman from Jeffrey from Wood. Dawson and Jepson came deep in the pack. Apparently, Lord Adam Jepson is what we should be referring to him as. Daniel Magri's fuel strategy did not play out the way he would have wished, but he was deep in the pack, so why not have a crack? Alfonso Latella, the first of the Challenger drivers home from Hugo Sutherland, Richard Mayer, Mark Foster, and then Dean Hunt. With a 15-second penalty, we'll drop back to 1 minute and 5 seconds, which will still be good enough to hang on to his place as he currently stands. So Foz gets home for third in the Challenger class. How about that one for the first time out in the Porsche? And Pete didn't curse him in the end. Hunt from McManaman, Hallinan, Bottrell, McClimate, Edwards, and Lawrence, you top 18. And from there on back, gets very tight in towards the 1 lap down marker. Adrian Gretsch, Braden O'Loughlin, Matt Norris, Alec Kay, the last driver across on the lead lap. Brent Tucker, Sean Bonici, Simon Honey, John O'Kiley, Matt Keane, all at 1 lap down. And from there on back, it's Jimmy Middleton, followed by the retirees, Trent Allen, Darren Burgess, Matt Gerard, Brennan Groch, Ronald Long, Matt Scholes, and Luke Mackay. Round us out there. And Pete, in terms of the championship, I think that penalty might have just put pay to a few things.
Look, I'm going to be confident with Nick Wood being the champion, Owen Coleman being second. I'm going to be partially confident that Ben Jeffries picked up third. I'm not going to call the Challenger class, mate. The racing was close. There's a penalty there, and there's some factors in the points that I just can't see where they're coming from, and it's too close to call right now until the administrators go through and add whatever extra factor they're doing, whether it's for incident points or penalties or something like that. So, sorry guys, folks, I just cannot work that out. Who's won the Challenger class at this stage?
So we'll say incredibly tight in terms of the overall results, and in terms of things at the moment, I get the feeling we'll probably be visited in just the next few moments by the championship drivers, because it was a phenomenal drive from Nick Wood, who got an opportunity to talk about that forward, and they said tyres was going to be the difficult factor. It was getting the heat in the tyres, I think, for Nick Wood that was the problem here tonight, and then that car just got away from him in the end. JP, I had a look at a race at Suzuka at the tail end of the calendar, and I looked at it and I went, gee, I just don't know how much overtaking was going to happen. But they put on a show out there tonight.
Yeah, they definitely did. And sometimes we sit back and say, like, certain tracks of certain places. And there are certain series that will make every place on the track work. You know, and that's the thing. If at the end of the day, there was only one specific area, say turn 1, that's it, of Suzuka. But these guys have taken it down the hairpin, they've taken it into Spoon, they've taken it round 130R. You know, we've seen it going into Casio. There's a lot of places on this, and they've done a great job with it. And these guys should be all proud of themselves.
Yeah, they absolutely should be. And I think probably the move of the night is probably going to be that move between the two Ford drivers, seeing Nick Wood get past Matt Keane in the S's. That was a sight to behold. Not something you'd normally expect to be happening, but hey, it ended up happening on the other side of things. In terms of the season, there was some interesting moments. There was some out of control moments all the way back at Catalunya. Stuff just kept happening that kept getting away from our drivers, but there was also some big highlights in terms of things. Number one was probably the podcast where we sat down and argued about race control and what we want from everything, JP, from Road Atlanta. We said that was probably our favorite rounds in terms of tracks, but that was probably a highlight on the broadcasting from my point of view.
Yeah, I think you're right. And I think at the end of the day, you know, we as we know, right, are here, we talk a lot, and we give our opinion, and sometimes we've only got split seconds, and sometimes we call out rules, sometimes we call out regs, but that's what we do. That's our job. So, you know, how many times has Crofty gone, well, maybe the FIA need to look at this, or maybe the FIA need to look at that. And that, at the end of the day, is what we're here to do. So, yeah, as much as some people, upset people with the way we speak and what we do, kind of is our job to do that, you know. But when you're doing really well, we'll praise you for that one as well. So it's a kind of swings and roundabouts, I think, for everybody, Scotty. And at the end of the day, we've learned a lot this season. We've learned a lot going forward. We know if there's things that will need to be changed, will need to be not changed. Could they do better here? Could they do better there? It's all a learning curve for everybody. And as my granddad used to say, if you learn one thing every day, you'll die a very smart man. So if we're learning more and more as the season's gone on, we're all going to be very smart.
Well, the thing I'll say to anyone that's listening along at home is if you want to have an opinion, become a commentator.
Yeah.
Pete, opinions and commentators?
I was going to say opinions are like, I was going to say one thing, but I can't say it. Yeah, everyone's got one, but they're not always right. You know, so look, occasionally it's good to just take a step away from, step away from the cockpit itself of a car, jump, and have a look at a race, try and work out what others are doing and call the race. I mean, you two guys are absolutely brilliant. I'm far better at the sort of, looking at the race and the strategy and who's trying to do what and what they can do in the car in a driver's perspective or a crew chief's perspective. But, I've really enjoyed it. It's a good chance to sort of sit back, occasionally you can call out some things that look really strange, but everybody's got different roles, and we're not paid here to align opinions. People will disagree at certain stages. That's healthy. Good debate as long as everybody looks at it, considers the things, and we take a position and move on. So I'm comfortable with it. I've really enjoyed working with both of you at different stages during the series. I've got to thank Jimmy and Ricky for bringing me on and into the series and giving me a good crack at commentary. I've really enjoyed it for Premier Endurance League, and it's good to be a voice of the league. I've got to work out these points though. I'm sort of leaving tonight on a little bit of a downer because there's something I haven't solved, and I don't like that.
Well, points will get plugged in, and I'm sure we'll find out the very, very near future, ladies and gentlemen. But before we can drop tail and run, the most important thing is this would not be possible without the sponsors that make it possible for Premier Endurance League. We're actually scheduled to have a conversation with Blake from Game Gear Direct throughout the show tonight. Unfortunately, that happened in the middle of safety cars. I think we were a little bit frantic and looking around. We actually missed that one. So for Blake Sterling from Game Gear Direct, I want to extend a direct apology. That's on me. On his behalf, though, I can tell you he has got some new merch in stock from, in particular, and this is a brand that I'll really, really like because I've got one of their wheels at the moment, and I can say they are schmick. They are the top standard, is the Gomez Sim Industries wheels. So if you are now looking for your latest in sim racing hardware, or you want to get yourself involved in sim anything, now that's sim planes, which I know that Pete, you're a big fan of, and the golf part of that one as well, you're also a big fan of, and then your racing simulators. If you're looking for the latest in terms of simulator gear in Australia, talk to the guys and Blake Sterling from Gamer Gear Direct. Blake is phenomenal to work with, easy to chat to, and can really get you sorted to get yourself out on track, because there are a lot of hidden pitfalls within the sim racing world, getting your sim set up, working, and making sure that everything's looking schmick. And Blake can get you sorted from Gamer Gear Direct on behalf of Virtual Motorsport Mentor as well, because even the professionals have coaches. The reason for that is mentality, keeping yourself held accountable. I've had multiple good chats with Chris Purnell from Virtual Motorsport Mentor about racing. Keeps you focused, keeps you in the loop. In terms of things at the moment, we do have two drivers on standby. I think we actually are going to start off with our race winner, and it will be Owen Coleman that we'll chat to first tonight, mate. That was looking a little bit of a cakewalk. You were quite comfortable. And then with about 2 laps to go, that rear end of the Merc got away from you.
Just got a bit too wide on that curb, and it was like it felt like the world's slowest slide. I was like, no. And then sort of managed to pick it up a bit, and saw the gap to Ben. I was like, come on. And managed to keep it in the end, so finally good to get one over Nick for once.
Mate, in terms of things, we're talking about the fatigue element of this race. It's not your standard racetrack that provides issues, because it's as if every corner has its own elements, and it's tricky to focus on a 2-minute lap on all those individual elements, because it's not a Bathurst whereby there's a wall a moment away. It's not you've missed a braking zone at the chase, you've funneled off. It's not a street circuit a la the Gold Coast, a la Detroit, a la Chicago. Any of these sorts of things, it's sort of the mistakes around here are a little bit hidden, and sometimes the fatigue, it just creeps in.
Yeah, I was definitely feeling it in that race. Just sort of, I was having a bit of trouble just with the front, just not quite getting enough turning, and it started to drift a little bit wide on a few of the corners. So, no, overall, I think my first and second stint were probably my strongest. I was sort of struggling a bit at the end there. And then that slide just sort of wrecked the tyres a bit.
In terms of things, obviously the season didn't go perhaps the way you would have liked. There's a few learning points, I think, there. That's what's the big takeaway for season 1 2024?
I think it's just a case of sticking to it. Like I was a bit sort of annoyed with myself after the first round, and just sort of tried to keep my head down. I think it's just a more case of it's just taking what points are on offer instead of trying to sort of go too hard if you're not sort of in the top half or so.
In terms of things, he's been your man, ladies and gentlemen, that complains the most about server settings. And from Grumpy Coleman, the last word on the server tonight. What was the big issue in terms of the server? Come on, there's got to be something.
No, I think you guys had it all sorted. I think the broadcast took a little while to kick in, but other than that, it was all good.
Other than that, Owen Coleman, your opportunity floor is all yours to thank the sponsors that make it possible for you, mate.
Obviously, big shout out to Blake at Gaming Gear Direct for being the sponsor of the series. Yeah, don't think it would be quite possible without him. Obviously, Virtual Motorsport Mentor, Sim Racing Community, Sim Racing in Focus, all you guys in the broadcasting booth, Leith, Race Control, and just, yeah, Jimmy, Rick, everyone behind the scenes for putting on an awesome season. It's been good.
Mate, thank you very much for joining us. It's been another banger of a season, mate. We'll see you back in 2024. Thanks for your time, Owen.
Sounds good. Have a good night.
Thanks, mate. And finally, there will be one more driver that we'll have to chalk to, and it is my pleasure to say your 2023 Season 2 champion, Nick Wood. Nick, mate, that looked like a little bit more of an American handful than you would have liked tonight.
Yes, the car was definitely a handful, but it was a fun race nonetheless.
Normally the Ford is seen for its negative attributes. It's obviously incredibly quick in terms of straight line capability, but talk to us, you can't drive the car the same way that you can a lot of the other newer GT3 cars. What were some of the sort of step backs or what were the takeaways that you had to change your driving style to make it work around here?
I think just had to be a bit more patient on throttle. It has pretty good brakes, so you can go into the corner pretty well, but being patient on throttle to stop the rear wheel spinning, and yeah, that really helps, I think.
In terms of the racing here tonight, we mentioned it just before that final restart. Restart on 11th, there was a lot of work to do at that point in the race. What sort of that next couple of laps, was there a lot of nerves, a lot of overtaking to do? What was the patience level like? Because I don't think any of those overtakes were easy at any point in time tonight.
They sure weren't. It was a lot of hard work. But you just have to be a bit patient, and you have to try and make a gap. So you have to force them into a move, take them off the line, and yeah, that generally gives an opening.
In terms of things, Season 2 2023 champion, got a bit of a ring to it. You were quickest in qualifying. I was just about to say to these guys, oh, my $50 is in a little bit of trouble here tonight. It just didn't go your way.
No, but I think it would have been a good battle up the front if I'd stayed up a bit closer to Owen and Ben, and yeah, I think they probably had pace over me though.
Mate, in terms of things, you now get to come back next season. Will the number 1 be plastered on your car for the next season?
I'll have to wait and see. I'm hoping to be back next season, but I've got a move on the cards, and I don't know whether I'm going to be able to make it. And I don't know whether I'll wear the number 1. I like my 308.
Mate, best of luck for next season. Best of luck with the move as well. And finally, the opportunity is yours, mate, to thank everyone that you'd like to.
Yeah, definitely Jimmy and Rick for organising the Premier Endurance League, and the league sponsors, Gaming Gear Direct and John Scott Motors. You guys, Jimmy, Pete, Scotty, excellent broadcast. I want to thank the guys at Twitchy Foot Racing and our sponsors, Digital Race Engineer and Player One Sim Gear. You can check out Digital Race Engineer by going to getdre.app /Twitchy. And just to all the competitors, it's really fun racing with everyone, and it's good, clean, hard fun most of the time.
Mate, thank you very much for your time, and congratulations on the championship, brother.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Ladies and gents, that is going to be about all we have to take away there. Nick, he's just a gracious winner, isn't he? It was difficult, took me to the last, made me drive clean. It was a lot of thankfulness for the competition, the competitors around him there, JP.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. He could have come in and oh, I'm the greatest, I'm the best, I'm this, I'm that, wow, I'm over the moon, yeah, well done, you know, all arrogance. And it's just not like that. It was like, yeah, thank you very much, you know, I've, you know, done this, and cheers to everyone. And that's what makes a champion at the end of the day. You don't need to be this arrogant, I deserve my place on the racetrack, when you can just be Nick Wood.
In terms of things, Pete, I just got a message from Dean saying, I think I've got it by 4 points. You're obviously scrapping away at things, but for Dean, I mean, he runs his own league. He's just moved into race controlling at the moment. I mean, the guy puts a lot of work in for those around him. You know, what can you say about the guy?
Oh, look, you know, great fight tonight. It was a close going in. He had to battle with Alfonso the whole way. I hope he's got it, because he essentially went in with that lead. No offense to Alfonso, he's driven well, but I'll tell you what, both Alfonso and Dean are standouts amongst the challenger class, because in the overall standings, they're both in the top 10 of the challenger class. So regardless of how that falls out, because 4 points, I don't know. Like I said, there's a funny factor in the points system that I don't have the points per race and the adjustments that the admin have been making. And so for me, too close to call to make it definitive. If it's the case, good luck to Dean. But we'll try and work that out and make that a little bit cleaner for next series.
Ladies and gentlemen, that is all we have time for here tonight. If you've enjoyed everything from Premier Endurance Racing League, don't forget to jump on over and give JP Broadcasting a follow over on YouTube. The link down below if you want to get more broadcasting for your sim racing endeavors. From all of us in here at the Premier Endurance League booth, it's been an absolute pleasure to bring you the broadcast right the way through the season, but more will be coming your way in terms of racing in 2024. Watch this space. If you want to get involved, don't forget to jump along to their Facebook group, always posting in there about things that are going on, as well as constant practice sessions that are generally ongoing. It's always discussion about what next season we'll have. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been my pleasure to be broadcasting the Suzuka 2 Hours. It's been my pleasure to be broadcasting right the way through to 2023, onwards to 2024, and we'll see you then.